You and I are predetermined nonsense, and that's okay. You and I have predetermined consequence, and that's okay. And that's okay. You and I are locked into our destiny, and that's okay. And that's okay. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. You and I, friends and nonsense. You gotta, and that's okay. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. You gotta, and that's okay. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. Look out. And I are predetermined nonsense, have predetermined consequence. You and I, that's okay. You and I, friends and nonsense. Look out, and that's okay. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know it. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know that's okay. You gotta know what you want. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You gotta know what you want. Look out. You and I are locked into our destiny, and that's okay. And that's okay. Nothing seems to go right. Melodies don't sound right. It's true. Days disappear. Shadows remain plainly clear. The door opens, and the fizzing in my beer slows. The door opens as it slows. I see a shade of something moving like a blanket in the wind. the spinning in my head grows. The door opens as it slows. I wish that I was pretty, more pretty than reflections look tonight. But I'm past the point of caring. It's time to make a moment. Let's not make a moment. This shouldn't be a moment. The door opens and the fizzing in my beer slows. She walks by, the spinning in my head grows. When the door opens and the fizzing in my beer slows, as she walks by, oh, she walks by, the spinning in my head grows. Watch it go. The door opens and it slows.
All right, welcome back to another Pangburn Hangout. What up, Scott? Scott went to take a shit. Let's just rip on Scott until he comes back. Scott, what kind of fucking name is that? Where's he even from? Big Lebowski. More like tiny microscopic Lebowski. He's from Colorado. What more do you need to say? Anyways, we're going to get started in a few minutes here. We're going to be joined by Eliyahu. Oh, I should share this with the Twitter world. How are you guys doing out there? Why does my mic sound so quiet here? 2, 2. Okay, that's a little better. Now I'm getting the full effect here. I just dropped the live link, the YouTube live link on the main Pangburn channel. If you guys want to head over there and make sure you click your reminder for the podcast between Michio Kaku and I. And of course, we will be doing the Q&A at 5 p.m. Pacific that day. And you have to be a website subscriber to get access. So if you want to be able to shoot the shit with Michio Kaku, give us a shot. Become a Pangburn website subscriber. You're going to get access to one of these Q&As every month, and also a monthly exchange with me if you want to take that. Some don't, some do. But yeah, it's kind of we can have a conversation, or I can take you through my philosophical coaching process, whatever you really want. With that time, we can have a conversation about balloons or art or stumble through the standard model. I was thinking marbles and art. The standard model in quantum mechanics. Yeah, whatever you want. But anyways, the thing that you guys will be most excited about is you get to have Q&As with people like Lawrence Krauss, Michio Kaku, who else have we had? Tarek Fatah, who's very big over in India. So yeah, there's a lot of value added there. And then, you become, it incentivizes you, I think, a little bit to jump in and engage more in the daily conversations, and sometimes we have impromptu conversations. So, it's like, come join us. Drink the Kool-Aid. Drink the Pang-Aid. See, Dal, you've drank the Pang-Aid.
The pleasure drive is everything.
The pleasure drive will save us all. Travis Pangburn is pleasure. Scott, you there? Scott's still taking a shit, I think.
This is the Big Lebowski bot.
This is. He's always. We always make fun of Scott's account because at night everyone will have gone to bed, and I'll just be like scrolling through my phone at 1 a.m. and I'll check out Discord, or I'll be posting on Discord some interesting links, and I'll see Scott still holding down the fort in one of these voice channels. He's on the night watch.
Yeah, he's going for like most attendance.
He's our job.
Perfect attendance.
Exactly. He knows there's a prize at the end of this. All the rest of you just don't know yet, but he knows there's a prize. He's gonna get that sweet ass trophy. Maybe it'll just be digital, but it'll say highest attendance in voice chat.
Or is it the link to your OnlyFans account? Yeah,
exactly. It's a 1 week free, open to free downloading and whatever you want to do on my OnlyFans account. It's perfect.
Well, yeah, announce that on YouTube. I bet you'll get a lot of people.
Hey, we're live right now. We're live. Oh, I should probably do this. I'm gonna share my screen. So what'd you get up to today, Dal?
Oh, just...
I just heard, just...
Yeah, just, I lit up this little golf course that this guy has in his side yard, like a little putting green.
You said you lit it up?
Yeah, I got some lights.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay. Sweet. That's a sweet job.
It's all right. Has its moments.
So are you just are you kind of like a general contractor right now?
Right now I'm working for somebody.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
But that is the goal, is to get completely untethered. Tired of having a boss.
I thought we already agreed that your goal was to worship the Pang.
Well, I mean, I could landscape a planet for you. I call it Pangburn Planet.
It's like Pizza Planet from Toy Story.
Yeah, like Pizza Planet, but a giant rotating statue of you.
Just with a cavernous echo inside the head.
Oh, inside the ass.
Inside the ass. Yeah. It's just spread wide open.
Well, we gotta advertise your OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. What up, M? What up, Yepley? What up, Clark? Welcome. Say hello when you guys get in. Yeah, again, Michio Kaku, April 9th. Released the new ad mat today. It's going to be exciting. Yeah. What questions are you, what's one of the questions you have for Dr. Kaku, Dal? Have you thought about it?
I've been thinking about it, but I haven't devoted more than 5 seconds at a time.
Okay,
something.
gotcha.
I want something string theory based, definitely.
Yeah.
How confident are you that string theory is still the way to unite gravity?
Right. You're cutting out a bit. But another cool question for Kaku is: has the Large Hadron Collider and its findings changed his mind about anything?
Yeah, I'd want to know what he's changed his mind about anyway, because he seems like one of those guys that goes off intuition a lot, and then that would usually, in my mind, lead you to, make a lot of like, that's not quite what I thought it was, and kind of build that model of reality.
Well, he does, as his futurist side, he does like to make those predictions about the future. So it would be kind of cool to look back in the past and talk to him about some of his predictions that seem to be coming true, and some of them that there just doesn't seem to be any sign of.
And what are some of the predictions that he's made? I don't know if
I'll have to go back, but I'm doing a ton of prep for this starting tomorrow. Well, probably starting this weekend, but I just got the PDF because his hard copy that he sent me hasn't showed up quite yet to my place. So they sent me a PDF. So I'm gonna race through that through the weekend, and I'll see what the God equation, the search for a theory of everything, see what that has to offer. That's Kaku's new book, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Eliyahu will be with us.
Those titles that'll.
What's that?
Saying it seems like one of those titles that'll sell books.
Oh yeah. People will either buy it because they're pissed at the title or because they love it. 100% or 0%. Have you noticed those questions I've been asking, trying to nail down, people's relationship with certainty they apply to things? It's quite fascinating to see how many people apply. It seems like they apply either 100% or 0% certainty.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I occasionally go in there and tap 75 just to piss you off a little.
I don't mind. Like those kind of results, like the triggered clicks or the clicks that are going to help promote discourse. That's all fine. And what that tells us is that, these kind of polls, there's going to be a certain amount that you have to factor in for people doing stuff like that. So if you have 2% saying that the Earth is actually on the back of a turtle, that 2% maybe is just a bunch of people whacking off.
Yeah, I feel bad for the 0.2% that's actually worshiping the great turtle.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a cool fantasy, cool artistic idea, but people need not confuse the realm of possibility with plausibility.
I've been thinking. Well, first of all, I've been really building up this argument against that, but I think it's just definitional, which is lame.
Right.
It seems like every time I try to argue with you, I end up
usually
to define words.
Well, yeah. Usually we end up sorting it out because you thought I was using it in a certain way.
Yeah. Or I think in this case, it's going to be like I'm going to bring up a new word and be like, no, that's what you mean when you say possible.
Right. Interesting.
But oh man, what was the other one? Oh, I've been thinking I kind of want to play devil's advocate one of these days. I'm thinking next Wednesday I'll try to, I don't know, maybe argue for a god or
that would
go super
Yeah, and I think we should. That would be great. And for next Wednesday, we'll just say like we won't give anyone any context, but just say I will be arguing for the existence of whatever God you choose, or even just God in general. I think that'll be sweet.
Yeah,
That's
I
fun.
was considering taking like opinions. Like, what should I argue for? Give me a week, I'll find a way.
Well, yeah, that's good too. If you put that out there, like arguing for the freedom to have sex with children, that one's a fun one.
Yeah, I would. I'd avoid that one just because of the looks people give you.
Well, it's that one is very unforgiving if people don't understand that, like, we're playing this game of trying to demonstrate things that we don't believe is right or good. Eliyahu, what up, man? He's probably finishing with his last student. Oh, there we go.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Not much, man.
How have you guys been?
Good.
Good, glad to hear it.
Yeah. My phone's been crazy busy, and my email's been crazy busy. I definitely need to bring on some help. Too much going on, not getting to things quick enough, because I want to keep all this stuff going, because all this stuff is really, these conversations we're having are really important to me. So we got to keep this going. But luckily I've had a bunch of people reach out and respond today with being interested in helping out. So that's good. And things will be a lot easier, of course, when I get YouTube remonetized, which my lawyer is working on right now. So.
Oh, you're going to try to get the original channel monetized? Because starting over is tough.
Oh yeah, no, I need those assets that are, the big money making assets for the company. I need those to continue making money. So, that's what this thing is right now. And it's been 7 months times, what your monthly revenue is, ongoing now, since we haven't been able to get remonetized. So it's, yeah, but anyways, yeah, it'll be sorted out one way or another.
So today I wanted to talk. I've got you and two others here. I've got Scott and Dahl here. I wanted to talk about how much should we care about intent and whether or not intent matters. This came to my mind because of the trial of Derek Chauvin that's happening for the alleged killing of George Floyd. And as I'm sure you guys know, he was originally charged with third-degree murder, and then it was upped to second-degree murder.
Right.
And it was put back to third-degree murder this week, right before the trial started.
Which was very smart. They would have never got second-degree murder.
Yeah, so I'm reading up on it, and it looks like, so murder in the third degree says, whoever without intent to affect the death of any person causes the death of another by perpetrating an act eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life is guilty of murder in the third degree.
Right. So, yeah.
So that takes out the intent of it. The second degree, the big difference is the intent.
Right. Yeah. And
I wonder,
and then first degree, of course, is like planned out intent, in like premeditated intent to kill.
Right. And so I was wondering what you guys think about intent, and how much you think that should affect the charge, if at all.
I do think it's one of those things that's pretty paramount. You know what I mean? Like, to say you can kill somebody and not even get third degree murder. You could get like negligible homicide, or like if you were
right.
Like, so there's all these different levels that depend on the sentencing, and I think that's what it comes down to. I mean, you're still getting convicted of a crime, but it's about the sentencing and the punishment involved. I think that's where intent comes in.
Oh, you have any thoughts?
See,
Well, I mean, if I'm giving it a percent, I would think intent is roughly 25%, because, like, if you intend to do something good, or no, if you intend to do something bad, but something good happens, like, the law's not going to step in and do anything. So all of those situations are out the door. So the intention, where when you have intention to do good, but something bad happens, that would be that'd be 25% of the total factor. That would be what we're factoring, the intent-wise. I tend to think, yeah, we need to look at intent, and as long as it's not like, well, no, I really think we need to look at intent almost always. I'm sure there's an exception, but as long as it's you intended to do, if you intended bad, that's when we should really look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
I have a
ultimately,
question for you, Bobby.
yeah, go ahead.
Just a real quick question. Is it when you have this question about intent, are you thinking about it only in terms of the legal system or just in general?
I was thinking both. I mean, we could talk about the legal question. We could also talk about the moral question.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if
Sorry,
I'm
Trav.
looking at if I'm looking at the difference between third degree murder and second degree murder, it's difficult for me to really parse out why one is more severe than the other, because both of them seem to have this line here: eminently dangerous to others, evincing a depraved mind, causing the death of another person. The only difference is what they intended to do, but they could have intended a whole lot of like bodily harm. You know, it's like if
Right.
you beat
And
you beat somebody up with a baseball bat and they happen to die, you could be charged of murder in the third degrry.
right, and you will claim, and people will say, "Well, I was just trying to hurt the guy. I didn't want to kill him." Right.
Yeah, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't really affect my decision of how much to sentence them to jail.
Right. You say, like,
That's how I feel.
You took that chance, man, when you took the baseball bat to that guy. What did you expect to happen? Like, if you want to claim now that your intent was not to kill him, like, that's fine and dandy, but when you're swinging,
it don't matter.
When you're swinging a baseball bat at someone's head, you understand that is a risk to that action.
Right.
Yeah. So here's an interesting one. So I don't know if you guys saw, there was an article that just came out the other day. This guy hit a police officer in his car. The police officer died. Now, when he hit the police officer, he was texting or something, or they saw that he had just got done texting. Hit the police officer died. And they basically said, okay, he was convicted and said, okay, time's been served. And they gave him time served from the time that he spent waiting in jail for the trial.
Sure.
Now, at the same time, like if somebody intentionally ran over somebody, like all of a sudden that's a whole different ball game. Or also if somebody was drinking and driving and hit somebody or hit a cop, like it takes the sentencing to a different level. And I guess that's the way I see it. It's less about like somebody being convicted for a specific action as opposed to the sentencing that you can, the specific prescriptions that you can say, hey, this person needs to serve this much time incarcerated.
I don't think intent matters because he's inconsiderate. Because it's actually worse because he was so inconsiderate to the point where intent didn't even come into the picture.
Well, so you think if somebody like, well, let's not even say it was like somebody driving and they hit a cop. Say somebody just didn't notice something. Somebody's working in a construction field on an oil derrick or something. This kind of stuff happens all the time. Somebody doesn't notice. They go ahead and start like whatever process, but there could be another person who's down there that ends up getting killed because the person didn't notice them. Now, to me, to punish that person the same way as you would if somebody had premeditated, had a premeditated plan to kill somebody, that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah,
Because
I hear you at that point, but I was saying in consideration, like with the inconsideration that of the act that he was doing, he didn't even have the consideration to.
Yeah, well, that's
have
where it comes
intent.
down to neglect. Like.
Yeah, I'm lost in the conversation a little bit, but are we just talking about the difference between premeditated and just incidental?
Just intent.
The question is, does
like,
intent matter? If you guys ever need to check that, just click on the live link, and it says it right above my giant head.
I was in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No worries.
But then also think about if you get busted with drugs, and it's just like however much amount you can get charged for a certain amount, but if you get charged with intent to distribute, like your charge goes up from maybe a year of probation to 10 years in jail.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like that.
If you're in the middle of doing something bad, being more specific, that's just your problem. You know what I mean? It wouldn't matter if you intend or not. Like what you guys were saying, like just doing something like beating up a guy and oh crap, he had a heart issue. I didn't know. Well,
Yeah, so I work in liability, and intent absolutely matters if you can prove it in court. And that intent, like to what Scott was saying, basically could remove the liability from one person and put it to another person, or from an entity and move it to another person. So if you're at an event, where there's a situation happening, and one person decides intently to do something, that event is really not held responsible. They are to some degree of allowing it, or how they manage the issue, but everybody's looking at the dude who intends, as compared to creating a conducive environment where accidents happen. There's a huge difference, right?
Yeah,
and so I
if
think
I accidentally,
yeah.
If
you
I
have
accidentally
accident
knock my
intent and
grandma
you
down the
have
stairs, I shouldn't get tried for murder.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a good example. If you accidentally bump your grandma and she falls down, you might get. Someone brought up manslaughter. What was there's the one
manslaughter.
There's the one degree
premeditative.
No, that's not Nivik. That's not premeditative.
manslaughter.
We're talking about if you accidentally run into your grandma with your waist and knock her down a stairwell.
Would you call it negligent homicide?
Yeah. Someone said negligent homicide.
There's three things. There's accident.
negligence,
There's being an asshole, and there's intentionally trying to kill a person. Those three things.
Yeah, so negligence can be negligence
but
to some extreme could be as heavily convicted too.
Right.
So just know it really depends on the court, and it depends on how you look at it. Now you can kill your grandma and literally walk away out of court the next day if they just go, "Dude, shit happened. I'm terribly sorry. You lost your grandma." Like it's sad.
Also, even if they think it was an accident, that doesn't mean it was. They might have been harboring some sort of subconscious
It's
hatred.
what you can prove, mate.
Yeah.
What you can
It's
prove.
hard. It's hard.
But that is a good point. This grandma thing is a perfect how we make that differentiation between something like if grandma and nephew were having a fight and they were prone to pushing each other during their fights because they're just they whatever, it's just a violent relationship, and the kid pushes his grandma and she slips and hits her head on the side of the coffee table or something and dies. Like think of how the court's going to look at intent there, or what the prosecution is going to be able to demonstrate if they want to demonstrate that this is somehow on purpose, like there was intent.
Or if grandma got ran over by a reindeer, did Santa Claus do it on purpose?
Ran over by a reindeer.
He specifically already delivered to my street. What is going on here?
But that cop, to hell with him.
Oh, Chauvin?
Yeah. Has anyone been listening to the trial?
I have been quite a bit.
Nope.
I have.
Don't need to.
What are you saying, Dal?
Can someone give a brief description of the case, because I haven't been.
Dude, it's been hours
I haven't been on
of material, so many hours. You're gonna have
basically
What's
a
the reason?
cop. So So George Floyd went into a convenience store, paid with a $20 bill, and that $20 bill turned out to be fake. So the cashier called the police. The police showed up. Derek Chauvin grabbed George Floyd, put him on the ground, and basically put his knee on George
Yeah.
Floyd's neck until he died.
So
And
there,
that's-
so
Wait, was that 20 really fake?
It was, yeah.
yeah, it was
Well, I
counterfeit.
mean-
So there was a few
It was Monopoly money.
just so you guys make sure you go look at this case, because there's a lot of steps between what Scott just talked about and
Exactly.
like going out there the first time and confronting George Floyd about it, and then going out a second time. There's a lot of different steps that went on, and the reason why this is taking so long is because they are being thorough, which the legal process should be, and every eyewitness is being questioned by both sides, and they're doing a thorough examination. I forget how many of the entire crime scene. I forget how many exhibits there are, but there are a fuck ton. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I mean, I've seen the video. I thought we were actually talking about the
No,
Colorado shooter, but
no.
but I've seen the video in full, and I would say that there wasn't intent. I would say that was negligence.
All right,
Clearly
just so you know,
negligence.
Grim, that there's way more than one video, so you might want to look at the collection.
Well, I've seen the body cam and the
I
security
thought
cam.
the autopsy said
The street cam,
that
I mean, and the body cam.
the guy died
of a fentanyl
in the
overdose.
Sorry.
Of a fentanyl overdose.
Yeah, isn't that what the autopsy said?
Yeah, so that's the
autopsy
autopsy,
did
but
not
the
say
cause.
Yeah, the autopsy didn't say that. I have the autopsy.
Yeah,
Yeah, the autopsy said it was homicide.
Oh, there were 2 autopsies.
there was 2 autopsies, right?
no
What-
shit.
what-
They're
what
both
even-
being
even-
discussed.
Even the official
Mm.
one, even
I'm
the
sure.
one that the state did said it was homicide. They might have said something like, "Hey, there's these contributing factors," and I don't think the one that the family paid for didn't say that either.
I'll pull them up right now since we're into it, and then we
Yeah,
can
that's how
get the
people
actual
die.
data.
You know, the contributing factors. The big part is like having the crap beat out of you. Yeah, you died of a heart attack, but
Well, the testimony
That's like
from
with the
that
COVID.
MMA fighter was pretty interesting. He's
Yeah,
like,
it was.
he had him in a blood choke, and he fucking just did that for 8 minutes. He's like, yeah, somebody's gonna die if you do that. Period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
that's like with the COVID thing. It's like, oh no, they really died from like issues with the heart. It had nothing to do with COVID.
Yeah, it's like I hate when people say that, but like, yeah, they might have had an issue with their heart, but they got COVID, and because they had an issue with their heart and they got COVID, they died. If they didn't get COVID, we can't
wouldn't
say
the
whether they
issue
would
with the
have
heart
died or
So,
not.
so
Yeah.
you guys are
Yeah.
you guys are kind of oversimplifying that. Let me add something here. If
Everybody
someone has
has
just
issues with-
Nivik,
Okay, sorry.
wait
Sorry.
and take your turn. If someone is scheduled to die in roughly a week, right? Because of their cancer treatment and their malignancy has ramped up. If they're scheduled to die in a week, like it's roughly a week away, and 4 days after that time, the person dies as expected, around the expected time of when they were prognosed to die, and they later find COVID-19 in their system. That's the argument. It's not what you guys were talking about. I know
See,
there's some.
I thought because I've I guess like Tom, like when I've heard this, I was sort of referencing Joe Rogan, and he's talking to, he goes on about like people with diabetes and having like heightened risk. I'm like, yeah, well, somebody might have had diabetes and not died. They didn't have like this 1 week to live or whatever. They just had diabetes, but that contributing factor played a big part in their death, obviously. But would they have died without COVID? Who knows?
Well, I've heard a lot of surgeons talking about this as well, where because we're in a pandemic, we are monitoring these finer details of things, whereas with influenza, we weren't doing the same thing.
Exactly.
So there is some nuance and updating happening on the fly here with how how much we should be doing this on the regular, and should we be should we just from a moral perspective, what do families even prefer to hear? They want to hear the truth. Was it something in like what gave the final blow is what the family typically wants to know. Like, what was the actual thing that my loved one that caused their breath to give out in the final moment? Was it the extensive chemotherapy that didn't work and the malignancy pushing up against whatever, or was it in fact COVID-19 that happened to be in their system? So it's not as simplistic
it's
as
not
some
cut and dry. It's not cut and dry. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I do
COVID
want to
punches
ask
holes in
Bobby.
yourselves, in your
I
organs.
do want to ask Bobby. What is your take on it? What do you think about the question of intent?
Well, like I said, in the case where you're differentiating between second and third degree murder, where you're doing the exact same thing, for example, beating up somebody severely, and they die, and the only difference is whether or not you intended to kill them. I don't really see a difference in why there should be a difference in sentencing between those two cases. But as far as intent, like when it's a total accident, like I said, you accidentally sneeze and your grandma falls over because of it, and then she breaks her hip and dies. That's where I'm like, okay, well, that was an accident. Because the thing is, it's always, to me, the intent is it's like an indication of what you're likely to do in the future. So like if you accidentally sneeze when your grandmother and she dies, and we don't really have to worry about you going out there and being a violent person.
I think we should upgrade.
That's a really good point.
Yeah. I think we should upgrade the grandmother to someone else's grandmother. Like you happen to be over at a friend's house and their grandmother, because it is different when it's not within the family. Like courts even view this differently.
Yeah.
It makes me feel worse though.
No, I know I think it is. It's something to think about, because there might be more or less understood about the relationship between the two parties if it's not in fact her grandson or whatever.
Sure, I'm willing to say that it's somebody else's grandma.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking like okay, so like you're driving and some kid jumps out in front of your car and you don't have time to slow down. You accidentally hit the kid. Right now that sucks. But are we worried that you're going to go on a spree killing? No.
I was just going to say that, Eliyahu. So when you say that the intent doesn't matter between those two, I think it has to do with the likelihood of something like this happening again. Because if someone was able to be led to have their intent led to want to cause harm to another, I think that makes a big difference when thinking about whether this person could do this again. Because a freak accident that maybe they could have helped by, maybe it's kids getting in duking it out in a fist fight out on the street. Was this a freak accident that someone has to pay the penalty for, or is there good reason to believe that this person could find themselves intending to do harm to others again?
Right.
Because I had a buddy who actually died in a freak gasoline fight.
Right.
It was crazy.
Oh fuck. Hey, I just have to say,
I'm talking about.
Yeah, I just have to say hello to Wise Ape. Wise, it's been too long,
forever.
brother.
Yeah, where you been?
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
Welcome back, brother.
Good, man.
I've missed you.
Thank you. Yeah, me too. I've missed talking with you guys.
Yeah, we're glad to hear your voice.
Yeah.
What do you think about intent, Wise Ape?
Well, intent as far as like in the crime.
Yeah.
Is that what you guys are talking about?
We're on basically the legal system right now. I think we're going to move over to morality at some point here in the conversation, but right now the main thrust is intent in a legal
Yeah,
situation.
I mean, if you intend to do something, I mean, that's not good if it's a crime, I guess.
Yeah, I think Pangburn said it. I wanted to bring up how harm is a pretty important part of that, because when you look at the second degree to third degree differentiation, it's not really about intent. It's about intent to cause harm. Because if I'm, or at least in my idea, that's what it should be. If I'm beating you with a baseball bat, I'm obviously intending to cause harm, and so I should be tried as though I could do this sort of thing again. Whereas if I'm just kind of driving down the street and a kid jumps out in front of me or whatever, there was no intent to cause harm. It was just harm was caused.
Here's an interesting thing we haven't touched on yet. What if the intent is self-protection? So you're protecting yourself. So you still beat somebody to death with a baseball bat, but you did it because they were trying to attack you.
It depends on the state that you're in, and you'll be tried under self-defense, and that goes down a different rabbit hole.
Yeah. But intent is pretty paramount in that situation right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is like what our good friend deniability likes to call causing undue harm. So you might be causing somebody harm, but it's not undue if it's self-preservation.
Yeah, and then there's still negligence in some ways. So it's like, let's say I'm defending myself, and they have a knife, and I bust out a fucking hand grenade. Well, yeah, then you're gonna probably cause more problems than you should, and that's why you're like, I know in my state, if two gentlemen approach me, I'm legally allowed to brandish a knife, but I'm not legally allowed to brandish a gun. If one of those two gentlemen has a knife with them, then I can brandish my gun in public space. Like I know those laws. Like it just really depends. And then there was a case in Florida where like a grandma like shot a dude like in the back as he was like running down the street after like looting her house. And she got away because they said, well, we're gonna allow being shot in the back, as something, and it's still intent, and you're still doing these things. It's kind of crazy in those directions of like
I think once you shoot somebody in the back, they've already shown that they're retreating from the situation. That's clearly clear.
But they have a shoot in the back law in Florida now, which is kind of crazy.
Just burgle someone's house backwards.
What does the shoot in the back law say?
What was that, Doctor?
What does the shoot in the back law say? I mean, you said there is a shoot in the back law. Does that mean you're allowed to shoot them in the back, or you're not allowed to?
It's illegal to shoot people in the back.
Well, that's silly.
I think that's a good idea, actually. That makes sense. You shouldn't shoot someone in the back. You should look them in the eye before you kill them.
If you and your partner are sleeping in separate rooms because of incessant snoring, come out to Gallery Fred and check out
whole deadless eyes when they're dying.
I was going to say though, you need to have exceptions to these rules. And
that sounds cold.
And
man.
It shouldn't simply be just shooting in the back, because if someone's running away with their back to you, kind of doing some weird shooting over their back type maneuver, and you shoot them in the back, like crime scenes are more there's a lot more to sort out than just simply, did the bullet hit them in the back or not.
Yeah. Well, I think the idea of shooting somebody in the back is, I think it's more along the lines
when they're
of
not
that person
armed.
was in retreat.
In retreat.
Even if they're armed, if they're in retreat and you continue to apply force, that's when you're going to run into issues, I think.
What if they're retreating with your stuff that they stole?
Still, that doesn't. Somebody could steal your stuff. That doesn't mean you can kill somebody.
Well, it depends on what do you think is more valuable, the life of a thief or the things they're stealing. Personally, I think the things they're stealing are probably worth more than they are.
Well, to you.
I think the life of the thief. I mean, like, yeah, because you don't know what that person is. Like, there are people who have been thieves who went to jail, came out rehabilitated, and were
Right.
good people in society. And like so to try and have this idea of like I'm the judge, jury, and executioner, like that's something we put in the dustbin of history a while ago.
Well, no, if they don't want to die, then they could have put my bag down.
That's it's about the person wanting to kill somebody. That's what it is about. I mean, let's just be real here. This person just wants to get off killing somebody.
I know.
And it's like, you know what? If a person's running away, you chasing him down and then putting 5 in his back, that's kind of fucked up.
Actually, I think it's more of a fight or flight situation that nobody's perfect. You're not going to be able to judge a situation and not hit them in the back. And so people do turn and run when people are still trying to fight for their lives or whatever it may be. And so, unfortunately, people catch a bullet in the bubble goose, and then they go, "Oh, see how they got shot in the back," or and then they get killed. And oh, you shot them in the back and you shoot them in the eye. Well, yeah, you also were in this person's house and creating harm to where this person literally had to fire a gun on you, whether you were running out the door. Now, obviously, you chase a man around the street and you put 2 in his back. Now you probably might have some issues there where the state's going to be like, now we now we see that this is manslaughter in that direction. you had self-defense in your house.
Yeah. They're actually chasing him a mile and putting 2 in his back is different.
Or even chasing around the corner, right?
Case law. There's case law. Like somebody shot somebody who like robbed their house, and that person was running, and they were like 5-6 steps out of the front door, but they were obviously running. Shot him. That person who shot him went to jail.
Yeah, or the person who shot him doesn't go to jail given the circumstances. Like in the case of the one that I heard the old lady. I'll try to find the case. It was a long time ago because that was one of the ones that kind of made Florida start to go in favor of and pass a law that you can shoot somebody in the back, because when you're dealing with somebody who is in fight or flight mode, they might not have the understanding or the training to be like, okay, shoot but not shoot, but then shoot but then not shoot, right? And maybe they're just shooting and they don't even see the person running out. They're still scared for their life. They have no idea what's going on. Maybe it's the middle of the night. You don't know what's happening. And that person dropped dead 5 feet from your doorstep, and it looks like you shot him in the back of that front door.
So
being from the South, too, like, a lot of people don't really understand the stand your ground law. Like, there's a lot of people out there who are literally hoping a thief comes into their house so they can kill someone. Or at least they'll say that.
Right.
I'll say that. I don't live in the South, but jeez, man, somebody comes into my house and threatens me and my kids, like
until they do it.
Well, yeah,
they want the opportunity to kill somebody.
I don't know if anybody's really hoping for that. Man, I can't wait to test out my home security.
Oh, I can show you that there are a lot of people who wait to use those guns.
There was that terrible old man. Here's an example of where this is. There's that terrible. The old man was getting robbed by teenagers, like they were stealing his booze, and he knew that this was happening, and he anticipated that they'd be coming back. So he made it seem like he was not home, and this teenage girl and boy, went through his window in the basement, and he was waiting there and just killed them both. Someone's got the YouTube stream running.
All right, Grandpa.
Not on mute. So just make sure you have it on mute.
See, that's a hard one. I guess that's
I think
a
it might
hard
be
one.
you, Scott. I'm not sure.
I don't have the YouTube up.
Yeah, whoever's got the YouTube stream running, make sure you have it on mute.
Yeah, I don't hear it. I don't. Pangburn, that's a hard one.
You kill little Johnny and little Susie.
Because you have the intent not to call the cops, but you have the intent to defend your land with your gun, and so that one obviously will go to some sort of needs to rely on some sort of legal precedence. And
he went to
take it apart in the courts.
He got double murder.
Fucked.
Guy's a jackass.
He's gone forever.
Absolutely.
There's also
a predator setting a trap for his prey.
Right.
You say he left the window open.
Oh yeah, he went through.
Exactly.
He knew that these children were not intelligent enough to reason. I shouldn't go into that man's house. It's not my house.
Well, what a sick person.
Yeah,
Like, that's disgusting.
I would agree with that. would agree with the murder, and I would agree with the conviction that he got. But there was another case where a man was actually robbing his neighbors while his neighbors were on vacation for about a week. And so he knew this, and so he went to go rob his neighbors. He got trapped in the garage for a week, and he had to survive off Pepsi and dog food because something happened in the garage where he got physically stuck and he couldn't get out. And then he sued the neighbor, and he won. I think he was awarded $10 million. The neighbor got
That's absurd. Yeah, that's absurd.
And it was actually a Darwin Award, which is kind of interesting. But,
It's not too hard. I mean, like you should be able to batter ram a garage door down pretty easy.
I found that one weird. I'm like, how the fuck does this guy get trapped in the garage to live off fucking Pepsi and dog food? There was another case where some dude was robbing. He went into a really rich neighborhood. He found an old lady that was living by herself, and he was trying to break into the skylight, and he fell through the skylight and fell on a glass table and had to immediately go to the hospital, and then he sued that lady and won as well.
Isn't that from the movie Liar Liar?
There was a situation like that in the movie. I do remember that. Yeah,
really?
where he's like, yeah. So the butcher fell through the skylight and cut his leg and sued my friend. Do you think that? And he won $6,000. Do you think justice? And Jim Carrey said, no, it's not justice. I would have gotten him $10,000.
I would have got him
I would have gotten him 10.
Forgot about that. No, but this is a real case that really happened though, and it was awarded a lot more than 6,000. So these are things that we had to kind of learn when I was for my firm, and these were things called Darwin Awards, which is like you might think a case goes one way and like who's right or who's wrong. But at the end of the day, it's kind of weird when the victim has to pay out millions of dollars.
Yeah,
it's sort of interesting.
Now I'm gonna guess we haven't heard from Doc. I don't think we've heard from Dr. Doolittle or Chick yet. And Bruno's currently deafened, but Chick, do you have any thoughts about intent? Does intent matter in criminal cases?
Yeah, I don't think you can let go of intent at all. In any case, I think it has to be considered at the very minimum in every situation, even interpersonal, really. I keep going back to the cases where people's lives are being ruined for saying the wrong thing online, and it's hard to judge somebody's intent, right? There's no real good external measurement. So that makes it a little bit tricky, unfortunately, but there's this movement to remove intent from situations, and I think this is really important that we keep it in mind.
There are
I
some
definitely think that's true as far as
is very obvious.
Yeah, in some situations, I agree with that. I'm not a fan of the pure agnosticism #StoneCold316, who thinks that we can philosophically never know intent of somebody.
Yeah, but it's still hard to measure, though, and I think that adds to the complexity of it. But it should always be considered. I don't think that's any excuse to get rid of it.
I mean, the only way in a court of law you can prove intent is by actions, so they can say, okay, we can see this person, what they did is they started putting into action. They started searching these websites of like how to poison somebody slowly or something like that, like that's the information that matters, like I don't think like we like you said, like we have no way of truly proving someone's intent. All we have is, the breadcrumbs that are laid out through an investigation.
Also, if someone carries on with an action even after the consequences of that action become evident, then it's quite clear that it's their intention and it's not an accident. Okay, perhaps I worded that a bit weirdly. What I mean is if they do the same thing over and over again. So you hit me with a baseball bat once, might have been an accident. You do it 2 times, it was definitely on purpose.
Yeah, if anyone sees the tweet the famous tweet that we all know about, that I posted in Live Pangburn Philosopher, this woman, Justine Sacco, was kind of the one of the first people to get totally canceled. So she, in case anyone doesn't know, she put this tweet she tweeted this right before she got on a plane. And if you're not looking at it, she tweeted, "Going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding. I'm white." Now,
No.
she, according to her, tweeted this to make fun of dumb white people who think that they can't get AIDS because that's only a black thing. That happens to people in Africa. But she gets on the plane after tweeting this, and while she's in the air and her phone is on airplane mode, it goes viral, goes on Twitter. She becomes the most hated woman on Twitter. By the time her plane lands and she takes her phone off of airplane mode, she's already been fired. And she's already been unpersoned, and she has no idea. And it's just really sad that, yeah, I agree with what Chick was saying there. We're not taking intent into account at all. No context, no realizing this person's a human. Pretty terrible.
That's
Who was
not,
this?
That's not justice. That's called frontier justice. You know.
Who was this?
Intent
Justine
doesn't really matter there,
Sacco,
though, because even if she was a racist, isn't it her right to be a racist as long as she's not hurting anyone?
But it's also a
public
company's
figure?
right to fire that person,
Depending on the contract that you have with that person.
Well, especially if you live in a state that has a right to work laws, you can fire people for anybody that you can fire people
there's
for
like
any
4
reason that you
states.
want. With right to work? No, man. There's way more than 4 states with right to work. I'm in Colorado, which people consider like a left-leaning state. We have right to work here, and the company can literally fire whatever they want. Is it Dave Ramsey? Do you guys know who Dave Ramsey is? He's like a.
I apologize, 28 states.
So Dave Ramsey is a guy. Basically, what he does is he's like a financial advisor on TV or whatever, that kind of stuff. But he fired a bunch of people from his company because they had premarital sex. And he said, "Oh, because my deeply held religious beliefs, I should be able to fire these people because they had."
You're kind of cutting out a little bit, but you're basically saying that he fired a bunch of people for having premarital sex.
Yeah, he fired like 12 people for having premarital sex.
Was there a giant office orgy?
No. It's just like they found out that these people weren't married and they're in a relationship. And I think, how could he even prove that they had sex? I don't think he has any proof of that at all. But there are people
Maybe
that were. I don't think that's actually what happened. But he was able to do it because he said, "Oh, that's my deeply held religious beliefs." So all of a sudden, the United States, like, well, if somebody believes something religiously, okay, yeah, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, but what if you're talking with the right to work law? You don't even need a reason, is what you're saying.
You don't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why he is able to fire him with no consequence. That was.
Isn't it ironic that the right to work it means actually the freedom to fire?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it also means it's also that you have the right to quit at any moment, right? They can't say you have to continue working for me. It could work out in your favor.
Well, I mean, there's no state in the union where you don't have a right to quit. Anybody can quit regardless of right to work laws. Because right to work laws literally only impact the employer.
Well, there could be a situation where you're, like, I don't know, you're an actor and you've signed on for a 3-movie franchise. You can't just quit after 2 movies, right?
Oh, you could. You might have to pay. You might have to pay out some money, but you could.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
That's a good comment. The right to work, being that you can get fired, in a right to with the term right to work. I don't understand that.
Yeah, basically, right to work is it's a government ban on contractual agreements, from what I understand. So a government, the government can say, or the government can override contractual agreements. Say,
Well,
okay, no, somebody can just fire somebody and not have any repercussions,
yeah, it's the
regardless of what
removal of
contract.
government ordinance between the employer and employee relation.
Right to work states you can fire somebody.
It's not, because it's not a removal of government, because the government is fundamentally involved with the right to work provisions that they put into place. So it's not a negation of government. It's just using government for the benefit of these specific people. Typically the people who are donating more money to politicians.
Well,
It's
yeah,
just
that's
an-
what
it's
I'm
just-
saying, but
Just for clarification, so everybody understands what the right to work means legally, it's a law that guarantees that no person can be compelled to join a union or pay dues to a labor union. So that's literally
there's
all it means.
no there's a lot more things that get rolled into right to work laws, where it's because that idea of freedom of association, they apply that to the company, and then all of a sudden that company can just be like, hey, I just want to fire this person for whatever, for no reason at all. I can
That's
just
right to work
say,
states.
yeah, well, it's the idea of at will employment. So the idea of at will employment is like, you can come in there and say like, oh, the company, since both of you guys are at will, the company can just get rid of you no matter what, with no reason at all.
barring wrongful termination or discrimination or a few other reasons.
There's a couple caveats in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still dangerous. It's still dangerous to fire somebody, even in a right to work state, because there's a lot of weapons in the arsenal that a person can use to say you fired me because of this illegal reason.
No, they'll get you.
Exactly.
So, but when I was when I was in the public school teachers union, they changed it after I left, but you used to have to pay the union fees even if you weren't in the union. So they finally altered that. So if you don't want to be in the union, you don't have to pay the union dues. Because I think they changed that under a First Amendment provision. Like you can't be forced to make somebody speak on your behalf.
So with that though, so if you decide not to be in the union, do you take wages that are below the union standard, or do you
No, but you don't have the
enjoy
union
that?
protection. You're not entitled to the due process if something happens to you.
Yeah.
Then if you opt out of the union, then they can fire you for any reason. But if you're in the union and you're paying the union dues, then you're entitled to due process if you get accused of something.
Yeah. And it's
They
like
can't just fire you. There's literally there's a trial, and you have a lawyer represent you, and
What do they call that? Arbitration. You got to go through arbitration, and well, that's the thing with these kind of laws. It's not like they came out of nowhere. It's like now we can look at it, but we have a lot less issues with these things right now. But when these laws were enacted and put into place, because there was a bigger issue with these kind of things in the past. I think a lot of it comes down to just the inefficiency of Congress to pass laws and new laws. Like look at anything related to like technology. Like how far behind are we having any laws that apply to what's actually happening in technology?
It's the irony about it being more about firing people with that term right to work. With that comment before, it's ironic that the word right to work is about firing people.
Yeah, it's a marketing, like everything in politics is marketing, I don't know if you know who
So the right to work is not
is.
more about you working, it's more about me getting you fired if I feel like getting you fired. It's just a nice spin. I like that spin.
Well, not entirely. That's not entirely.
You can
what
tell
it
that's a
is.
conservative law.
Well, that's not entirely what it is. It's like the idea of like unintended consequences. Like I do think the people who put these things in place were like, oh, here are these issues that we need to look at, and and you go and you put in place like specific things to remediate that, but there are unintended consequences, and those unintended consequences come about because the company has 300 fucking lawyers on retainer at any time that could come up and write anything that anything that company wants, and they can go and scour through trial law and all that kind of stuff and figure out like a rationale that makes it work. So it's not like this thing where it's like, oh, this is what they are planning to do. I do think you have an issue once you see like, oh, there are these negative consequences, to then just still hold on to it, like without being like, oh, okay, well maybe
You could
there might be
automatically
some
know that's a
issues here.
conservative states. From just from that term, just the way that's phrased, and in like a blue state like California, that wouldn't be the case. You already know that's not
Actually,
the.
California has the right to work state.
California
It
is
is?
a right to work state.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the
it's
original one, I
not.
think.
But no, it's not a right to work
If
state.
it's the
No, it's
original one, that
not.
would be
No,
like
it's not.
1840.
No,
Yeah,
it's
we're
not.
not a right to
No,
work state.
No, it's not. I'm looking at it right now. It's not.
Yeah, I know. I live in California. We're not right to work. You got to have really good reasons to.
Because it's liberal.
Very liberal, but there's also issues when it comes to people that. Right now, there's big issues in the state when it comes to researching people's personal lives and then reflecting them on their performance. So it's like, oh,
I'm
well,
looking at the map.
look at your partying ass on Facebook. That's gonna, judge how we treat you in our business, and how it reflects us. That's hard. Like right now, it's a big issue, and it's mainly a big issue around Hollywood because there's obviously you have people who want to have a voice on Twitter, but at the same time, they're also like representatives in Hollywood, where you're you're an actor, or you're a big time, profile or whatever you're doing, and maybe the company doesn't want you saying some shit on social media or doing some shit on social media that is reflective of their company. You get terminated. You could sue people really bad for the people that kind of that shit here in the state. It's hard, man. If you have a contract with a company though, and they say that you need to be a certain way on these social profiles, then I think that's different, which is what most actors and actresses have to now face when we see these contracts in Hollywood.
Because if they hire you, I mean, they must have hired you. There's something about you in the first place to hire you, so it's on them. They can't just all of a sudden just because they feel like. And I'm looking at the map right now. All the red states are right to work.
Yeah, which would make sense. I mean, the blue states, it's generally thought of as the right to work is generally thought of as a like government getting out of the picture thing. Anyway, to bring it back to intent, I wanted to talk. I wanted to go away from the individual case of intent and whether or not an individual person is guilty, and talk about it on the level of nations, because this is, I think, another big gap between maybe not just left and right, but also between different countries. Like people like to add up the body counts of different countries without taking intent into account. So you look at something like I don't know, the war on terror or the war in Iraq, and people look at the casualties that are a result of the American government, and they don't seem to be very interested in what the intent of what the American government was. They're looking at a bunch of corpses and saying, "What the hell, man?"
And this is actually something I was sort of working up to. So in law, I do think intent has a huge has a large impact, but I think morally, I think when you look at state actions, I think those are less about specific court of laws and more about morality, more about this what's actually going on. And I think in a moral standpoint, I think intent matters a lot less.
Well, we we have things called tribunals when it comes to things like warlords, or it comes to things like countries, and there's still consequences that befall on those countries or befall on those warlords. Most of the warlords lose their head after a pretty large revolution. But when it comes to countries, there's obviously, issues where there's war crimes, or just I don't know how to describe it, but there's just an overall leaving of the country when it comes to not doing business with them, or not doing their contracts, or just kind of segregating them out of the G7 or the UN. So, and this is basically what's happening when you do have intent of a country. What happens when you have intent of a country that creates consequences, like China's intent to, be a first world nation, but then the Yellow River becomes the number one polluter of our ocean and is killing plant life and fish life and coral across the world. No, it wasn't really intended, and someone could say, well, maybe it wasn't intended, but maybe it was intended. Maybe they did intend to kind of like, well, this is how we want to do things, and we don't give a shit about the rest of the world. Like, this is how we're going to act, or you have these countries that just don't care. And they don't care if you're going to exclude them or not. They're just too powerful to exclude, right? So I think that's where the gray area happens, and that we have to realize, like, you guys intended to do this shit. You guys intended to capture a bunch of Uyghurs, right, and put them in the internment camps and maybe kill a few of them. Like, yeah, we intend to do that. What's the fucking problem? That's who we are. That's our culture. And that becomes problematic.
I guess when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about it in terms of like, governments are not constrained in the same way that citizens of certain countries are. As a citizen of a country, you have like certain laws laid out, but countries don't. There's no overriding body that says, hey, countries can and can't do this, and there's going to be specific punishments for this, that, and the other. So just thinking about the war on terror and everything that happened in the Middle East from 2003 onwards, after we went into Iraq. There's been many cases of where, we just accidentally bombed fucking all these innocent people. Like, what kind of responsibility do you have there? Obviously, there's no legal responsibility. That's why I say, in my opinion, this comes down to a moral standpoint. And I don't, in that sense, that's why I think intent matters less, because you can intend to be doing something good, but if you have there's no way for you to ever be punished if you intended for something to be good and it came out bad, then at that point intent's gone. And we just have to look at things, but like, oh, what we did here, that was wrong. Not that there's ever going to be any repercussions to it, any legal repercussions, but still we can recognize, like, yeah, that was, we shouldn't have done that. we shouldn't have taken 14-year-olds and put them in Guantanamo Bay. It's probably the wrong move.
So you're saying you intend to do something good with that's I guess your view, twisted view of what you think good is, and bad things, and it being bad things.
I don't even think twisted view, because you could have a view that's like, okay, we can look at a place like Iraq, which is very clearly under the rule of Saddam Hussein, which is a terrible person, and he's a dictator, and fucking his kids Uday and Usay are fucking like putting people in fucking cages and torturing them and like doing all this fucking wacky fucking wild shit. Yeah, those people should probably come out. But once we get to the point where, like, okay, we're trying to get rid of these guys, but we accidentally bombed like a village of completely innocent people, man, that's morally wrong, in my opinion. There's no two ways around it.
You really think that guy taking him out was because he's not a nice guy? You think that was what it was about?
No, that's not what it's about. But that doesn't negate the fact that he was a piece of shit and he didn't hurt getting rid of him. You know.
Yeah, it's hard to.
Wasn't he our piece of shit?
Uh,
I don't know. Well, see, there's the thing. I don't know how long or for how many years you can still blame the same country for like the state that it's in. Like, I don't know how good that argument lasts decade after decade after decade. You know.
Does anybody
It's
have an
interesting.
argument
It's
that
interesting.
intent doesn't matter?
Well, do you think you have like knowledge and experience or things that are passed down to you from your ancestors, Bobby, that still makes a difference in your life? So regardless of the state, do you think like people, your ancestors, what your family did 150 years ago, do you think that still has an effect on your life? Because I think it does for me. Like, and that's
Well, you're not just talking about like their genes. You're talking about like
not genes, like actual like actions that people took. Be like, okay, like, so say somebody is like a doctor or something. Somebody becomes a doctor 150 years ago, and their entire family just starts becoming doctors from that point on. Like how much is the fact that somebody who is alive now is a doctor? How much is that based off of their great grandpa's experience, and how did those lessons that he learned get passed down from generation to generation? So these are things that happen all the time. Like, especially in like Irish and like Italian cultures, like these kind of things are extremely important. And I think because those things are important to individuals, they become important to societies, to countries.
So I'm gonna shift the conversation from legal to moral.
That's what we've been talking about.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying, as far as there's another topic on the table, which is really ridiculous. I don't know if anybody actually feels this way, but some people, some woke people, saying that it's not right for babies to be born because those babies basically were not
they
did not consent to be born. Even though, and the parents intended for them to be born, and they didn't intend to be born because they weren't consented. So were their parents' intentions basically swept over their rights?
Yeah, no. To me that's a lame argument for the antinatalist position. To me, if you're going to go that route, there are ways to do it, but the violation of consent argument doesn't make any sense to me, because when you conceived, there was no being who could have consented. There was no violation.
Yeah, there's no possible way something or a human being or any being that's not born yet can consent to being born. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like it's just like who says this shit? Like,
so it's actually coming up. I know it's kind of weird. So this is starting to become up, but they actually talk about it legally. Like it's actually starting to become a thing because there's actually litigations happening.
I mean, I think you can infer the intent of the person that's saying that they didn't want to be born by the fact that they're not reversing that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like if you feel that way, fucking there's some fentanyl right over there. Go take a handful. Fucking, you're good.
You can reverse the foul chains of existence at any time. And if you're not doing that it's a signaling of your intent to be alive.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Wise Ape, I haven't seen you in a bit.
That's a great point, Doctor. That's fucking hilarious.
I hear from Wise Ape. We haven't seen Wise Ape in a few months.
Wise, you heard him earlier, right? Or you muted them?
Hey, yeah,
no,
I'm
I was
here.
busy. My apologies.
Nice to hear from you.
Hear from you, bud. You doing good?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, I've just been quiet and anyway, I don't know. I'm just listening.
I do want to say, Wise, how are the kiddos doing?
Oh, they're doing great.
Nice.
My youngest daughter just turned 1 today, so yeah, thanks for
congrats,
Wise.
dude.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Starting to walk around, and that's when they really start trouble.
It's quite foolish of you to have her on the first.
Yeah. You surprised us.
What do you think about Matt Gaetz?
What's going on with this Matt Gaetz guy?
Charging the looking into him for child sex trafficking.
Oh yeah, he's
What's
fucked.
his position? What does he do?
He's a
He's a congressman in Florida.
Oh yeah, congressman. Yeah, in the House.
The thing about this side of it, because at the same time you have Ghislaine Maxwell now being charged, which means that she could start singing, right? So she's being charged with stuff. So we'll see what's going to come out, and I think that we're going to see a lot more people in power, a lot more people with money, whether they have political power or they have financial power, economic power. You're going to see some people go, oh, fucking, I wasn't part of this, but maybe they were part of it, but maybe they still had this, and it's like, you know what, it's guilty by association. And if you're looking at the way the political landscape is going, like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts, or fucks to give when it comes to leeway on this kind of stuff. And I heard the greatest I would say the greatest, but I heard a really good analogy, which is like, listen, if you're the fucking getaway vehicle and your buddies are in there to rob the store, right? Or at least what's happening, and then they come out and say, hey man, drive fast or just rob this place, and you do it, right? Even though you didn't intend to stay on topic here, intend to be like, oh, I'm the getaway vehicle, your ass is going to jail. like you could be charged. You're going to be handcuffed, and like you are just as in collusion with these guys as if you didn't know. So when you show up and you find out there's a bunch of sex trafficking going on, you want to put up your hands and be like, oh, I wasn't part of it. Oh, I just knew some people. It's like, titties, man. Like,
here's the thing. He was traveling with an underage. He was traveling with an underage.
You see something like that and you don't report it.
See something, say something.
You're complicit. Like, fucking at that point, complicity comes into it and you're fucked.
Here's the thing.
If you saw somebody murder somebody and you didn't call the cops and say, "Hey, I saw this person
that has
murder
happened.
somebody," you're gonna have charges. That's
happened. That's crazy. What's up, Nivik?
And so let's talk about the topic.
He was traveling.
He
was traveling with an underage person, and they said, well, if you're having sex with that person and you're traveling with them, that's trafficking.
Yep.
And he said something like, well, no, that's not really the case. And
no, what he said is, I never traveled across state lines. He didn't say I wasn't banging a 17-year-old. He said, I never traveled across state lines. I'm like, oh dude, that's probably not the way you want to go on that fence.
wait, he's not admitting to underage.
That's like
poor choice
of
words.
Exactly. It's a poor choice of words, because he could have said like, I would never be in a relationship or never have sex with an underage person. He didn't say that. He said, I never crossed state lines with an underage girl. It's like, whoa, dude, that's a
he says that it's BS and it was an extortion plot. That people came to him trying to extort millions from him.
Yeah,
to threaten him with this BS cooked up.
It's gonna float like a lead balloon, my man.
It's a good thing he immediately went to the FBI about that. Oh wait. Fucking idiot.
So I think haven't read all the details, but just looking at the surface of it, it looks like just a typical, what it looks like when your political opponents are trying to dig up dirt on you, for as far as I can tell.
Well, of course the Dems are going to go after him.
He is.
It's
Yeah.
He
So
is.
I mean,
clear
there's not. Well,
political
there's
corruption.
when there's something that's real, then you'll usually see Republicans jumping on people even harder than the Democrats are. And in this case, I'm not seeing any Republicans jumping on him.
That they're back. They're not supporting him though, and they're backing
in?
away from him. And that's the thing, is like what he mentioned. Like I forgot who mentioned that before. Like associates of like people that do underage or you know or corrupt acts. You know that who knows where this might lead. There might be a connection with other things where they're thinking like they're more thinking like severing ties with him because nobody's jumping to his aid.
Well, the interesting with Gates is like the headline came out, the underage girl thing. That's the FBI have been investigating him for financial crimes, and and this thing just came out. It's just like it's sort of the same way, like when Clinton was being investigated for Whitewater, like that's when they found Monica Lewinsky. So
yeah, well, the FBI
it
was also
turned into a
investigating
different
Donald
thing.
Trump for peeing on Russian hookers. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I
absolutely.
don't think there's any credibility in an accusation just because the FBI is investigating it.
Well, his friend is being charged. What you call it, Greensburg for many counts of
embezzled
for
$500,000.
yeah, and he got busted for the sex trafficking charges, and they're thinking like there's some link between him and Matt in regards to that. So you know what's probably likely going to happen. They're not going to go to Matt. They're just going to have him squeal with a plea.
Well, Gates, like
yeah, I would totally believe that the charges are trumped up to get him to turn. I would believe that 100%. That's a typical tactic.
Oh, that's not trumped up, but I know what you're saying. But that is the fundamental basic principle in the American judicial system.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Is they throw the book at somebody and we're going to hit you with every last possible fucking thing we can.
Give us the big fish.
Unless you give us, that's what they,
that's what they want. They want all the way because they want to root it out. I mean, you're talking about when you're pulling people like Ghislaine Maxwell, apart. You're hearing about famous politicians that are doing these kind of things.
She's a gold mine.
It's absolutely up to the FBI to just not stop. Like they eat this shit up for lunch all day, every day, and they want to kind of root this stuff out. So I know that this is not the end of it. I wear a bracelet on my left wrist here for the past few years, and it simply just says 22. It's because 22 women are abducted every day for child sex trafficking. Okay. And it's horrible and it's huge. Now, how do you have such large sex trafficking rings happen in the world? There's a lot of fucking money and power behind this kind of stuff, and it's just massive. And I think it's old world thinking and old world mentality of treating women this way. But it is one of those things where we have to realize that there's some very big, heavy power movers behind this stuff. The people that were behind Jeffrey Epstein, where seriously had some capital behind him. Bought him a fucking island. This guy knew fuck all about investments, man. He knew barely anything about hedge fund, and that's where he hid behind that thing.
He was connected to the damn royal family, man. I mean,
crazy.
Dude, well, he was such
Prince
a child sex trafficker. That's what he did. Like that's how he made millions of dollars, because he can be like, oh, okay, yeah, like Prince Philip. Oh, I know you want to bang a 15-year-old. I know you've got all this money and nobody can come after you and all this kind of like. I mean, so of course,
he's good.
People do that kind of shit, dude.
Yeah,
he's good.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
bullshit.
Chris Andrews,
you have an intent. Yeah, you had intent to know exactly what the fuck you were doing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I would be
dude,
surprised if the Queen was over there on the sidelines, fucking rooting them on.
Dude.
You
Well,
just don't know.
Andrew has probably been banging underage girls since the 1960s. You know, I mean, that's
Right?
just fucking, you know. And he's like,
Mentality, man.
I've been able to do this for 40 years, and it's never been an issue. And all of a sudden, it's like you getting called out, and he's like, oh shit, yeah.
And I just was talking to a guy who was saying that
fucking doing that shit.
there's a racket they found in Florida of like a bunch of underage,
Not shocking.
Cuban
Oh,
girls that come over
Florida's
and
corrupt as
they
hell.
work. Yeah, they work and
Bobby
they choose a
left.
bunch of blue collar men, and if they make enough money, they can get out. Like it's a system, right? It's just a system, It's terrible.
And a lot of people here are exploited because they don't have their cards, so they have them be indentured servants and all types of shit. They keep their papers.
Yeah, and you don't hear about it because if you're a female and that's how you like brought up, and then you made enough money and you got out, which a lot of them do get out. Most of them don't talk about it. They just don't. Like they're not going to go public with their story. Like they're not going to talk about this stuff. They don't want to, right?
They don't want to attract the law.
Most women, most women won't, because they know exactly what's going to happen when they do, and they don't want that. They'd rather just get over it and live their life.
If you're here illegally, you get deported.
I do want to say, Chick, Dal, Dr. Mace. You guys got any input?
On which topic?
We're talking about right now. We're talking about sex trafficking, but that's we're talking about in the situation when it comes to intent, because when it comes to that kind of stuff, you have people in high power. They're like, oh, I didn't mean to, or oh, this is happening, but it's really a see something, say something. But when they don't say something,
I believe Gates saying. I believe Gates saying
about
that he was.
intent or about people lying about their intent.
Yes, because I mean, obviously, when you're doing something like traveling with an underage woman across state lines, I think the intent is going to.
I've done that 100 times, and I haven't ever done.
It's not your child related to you in any way.
Hold on.
Or friends.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's hard, right? Because you got a lot of explanation to do when you're part of a bunch of information. I don't know how this Matt Getz guy got caught, or what exactly he was doing, how they found out.
He's associated with a guy that is charged with that.
Yeah,
that's how they looked at him. Yeah. They're close. They're close friends. Greenberg is charged with that, and that ended up kind of spilling over into Matt Gates.
There's a person that's a real criminal who he happens to know.
That you're charged with sex trafficking, and is it? Hey, by the way.
And when you say sex trafficking, do you mean that somebody intended to abduct a person and sold them for money, or are you talking about
doctor
was banging a 17-year-old and happened to cross state lines?
Yeah, doctor. If you're banging a 17-year-old, and you pay for them to cross state lines, you are a sex trafficker. Period.
If you're flying on an airplane.
No, even if you take somebody. No, even if you take somebody in a car or a fucking train or anything, once you cross state lines,
I don't think there's a morality issue there. If he's okay, I'm not saying it doesn't hit federal law.
I'm just saying it looks.
I don't think anyone would say it doesn't. But you're talking about intention. So if he's what's the age of consent in Florida?
What does it matter?
What does it matter?
If the age of consent in Florida was 9 years old, would you say okay, somebody can bang a 9-year-old?
Well, how about if she's 17 and she's about to turn 18 and he has the consent of her parents and he's going to marry her?
I'm saying that they're seeing ties between.
You haven't asked any of these questions about what's his
relationship.
They're
seeing ties between the guy being charged with Matt.
Am I talking to suspicious. Roy Moore right now?
They're seeing ties with the guy being charged.
You're asking about intent, and so You know, if he's there's a lot of relationships between guys. I mean, he's not an old guy. He's not like some dirty old guy with gray hair and a pot belly.
He's
buying
37.
12-year-olds and grooming them. He's
37.
Yeah.
He's
okay.
38.
So you know what? My sister married a 38-year-old when she was 16. That was a little bit creepy, but it wasn't illegal, and they moved across state lines.
Yikes!
And the guy was not a criminal for doing it. They stayed married for almost 2 decades, decade and a half. That's it. The guy's not a criminal. Just because,
and what does she feel about that now?
That's not the thing.
He wasn't a he was no.
Yeah, I would
What
like to
does
hear.
she feel about
I would
that
like
now?
to. I would like to hear Zombie's opinion on this because she deals with like sexual predators all the time.
I came in the middle of it.
Yeah, okay. When we're talking about intent, and somebody brings up a scandal that happens to be in the news, where it seems like 2/3 of the people in the room are the political opponents of the guy that's trapped in the scandal. That's like 80% of what I'm
hearing.
I think you're grabbing at straws trying to defend this guy.
I don't even know who the guy is.
Understand it.
It sounds to me the whole scandal is. I know nothing about the guy.
We never convicted anybody. We're not convicting anybody.
Can we stop talking over each other? Who are you talking about, Doolittle?
Yeah, I'm trying to explain, maybe what the nuances of the situation are that you'd have to consider before you convict a guy. Yeah, before you convict a guy. Yeah.
Zombie. Hold on. I just want to clear it up. Zombie. Doctor's talking about Matt Gaetz. We've been talking about Matt Gaetz, the representative from Florida. Has been accused of sleeping with a 17-year-old girl and paying for her to cross state lines.
Oh wow, we also have one of those here in Oregon right now with a school board type member in Lake Oswego. Same thing. Just popped off.
He's being investigated because he's associated with a guy charged with sex trafficking. That just got their attention. That's all. They're just looking into it.
Hold on a second. When they say paid for her to cross state lines,
it doesn't matter if she's crossing state lines.
It's awfully vague. Okay, if it's his girlfriend and he buys her an airplane ticket to go with them, that's a totally different thing. Than
hold on,
do you know what federal law is? The federal law under FOSTA SESTA states that a minor does not have consent to sell sex. It doesn't even matter if she crossed state lines.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But that's
he's compensating her with gifts and stuff.
They're not saying nobody has accused him of paying her for sex.
Well, he is because he's giving her.
You guys, paying for sex doesn't matter, doctor. Like paying for sex doesn't matter. That's not that.
Well, wait a sec, Scott.
How do we know?
Wait a sec, guys. Just let's try to clarify the conversation a little bit rather than trying to win your own fucking argument. If we're talking, try to clarify this a little bit. It sounds like Doolittle's talking about what someone can do under the law, and Doolittle just said, that this person hasn't been charged with paying or with trying to buy sex from this person, and then the question is even if he's not paying for sex, is he breaking some other kind of law?
He's
absolutely
paying for sex.
So
there are laws for transporting a minor across lines.
Just
transporting them across
state lines really don't matter if they are 17.
He's exchanging for goods.
Hold on. I want to hear from Zombie because this is like she actually works in this realm in law enforcement. So I want to hear from her.
Well, I'm not familiar with the case, but I can guarantee you that I've worked on enough of them and I've traveled all over the United States in regards to this type of work. And if it all depends on what they indicted him on. Is it a local a state charge or is it a federal charge?
Doolittle,
it's a
isn't that
federal
what?
charge.
Isn't that what Doolittle you were trying to get at?
I'm trying to get at that before you opine on his morality.
Right.
Oh,
you have to understand the relationship between him and this girl.
Right. So you're making a moral. So now everyone.
If they're in love and they're dating and they just happen to be traveling companions, and hey, guess what? He happens to be a rich guy. Yeah, he's going to pay for it. That's not immoral.
So I just
if he bought her from another party in another state, then that's absolutely immoral.
Okay, just make sure you guys differentiate
Oh no, but that
between.
doesn't. You don't need a third party.
So zombie, 2 seconds. Just make sure you guys.
You don't need a third party if they're a minor.
Can you guys not hear me?
Sorry.
No, we can hear you.
Yeah. Just everyone wait for a second.
I couldn't.
Just please differentiate between whether you're talking about what is or what ought to be, please.
Exactly.
And stop, because you guys, it's an ugly conversation right now. So let's get back on track. Please outline whether you're talking about want to have a conversation about what ought to be or what is in fact the law.
Yeah, no, I would say I was arguing what is law, zombie.
Is you don't need a third party selling anyone if they're a minor. If they are a minor, they have no ability to consent to sell their body in exchange for anything of value. And that includes gifts. It doesn't have to include currency.
So what I'm saying is, can someone please show me where he's actually accused of paying her for sex?
The plane trip.
Yeah. I mean, travel is a part of that. Like,
I'll take it to here. I take it in here.
What is he indicted on?
So he's not indicted on anything. The DOJ is like right now actively investigating them, and that's where all this came out. And
he's not even indicted.
No, what has happened is that I'll tell you exactly what's happening.
He's being extorted.
So
hold on.
That's what he says he is.
I mean, I'm saying maybe we shouldn't do a lynching on the guy if he hasn't been indicted. The DOJ has to investigate any type of complaints that are brought up to him, because really what could be happening is maybe this has been investigated at a local level, and from anyone's perception, they may have said, no, we're not going to move forward on this, that we don't have anything here. But then the people may be unsatisfied with that, and they go to DOJ, and DOJ has to look into it. So, I mean, we really do need to wait and not like.
Yeah. So hold on. Basically, what's going on, zombie, is there's this guy named Joel Rosenberg who is being indicted for fraud,
sex trafficking.
Fraud and sex trafficking, but he's being indicted specifically for fraud he basically stole half a $500,000, and he was this guy who was a very close associate of Matt Gaetz. So once the DOJ started looking into this, they started finding these connections with Matt Gaetz, and the DOJ has not put out anything at all. And the very reason why this thing is even being talked about is because Matt Gaetz' father, who's worth like a couple $100 million, came out and said, oh, the FBI reached out to me for this, that, and the other. And then Matt Gaetz spoke to it. So the DOJ hasn't said anything, but
he
Matt
says it's
Gaetz,
a hit, but that was Trump's DOJ investigating.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz sort of just put his foot in his mouth and been like, you should have just shut the fuck up about this and let it go through the process. But he opened his mouth and be like, oh, they're just coming after me because this, that, and the other. It's like, really? I mean, that's what every criminal says. Every criminal says, hey, it's fucking not fair, and it's this, that, and the other. And that's basically.
But that's not the Biden's administration. It's the Trump administration that was. So it makes no sense that he's bringing that up. That he's being attacked unfairly.
Bill Barr started the investigation.
Have we heard from
So he's being extorted.
Sandokan yet?
What was that?
Sandokan, welcome.
Hello, Pangburn. How are you?
Good. How are you? Glad you're
Fine, thanks.
Glad you're here.
Thank you. I wanted to contribute, but a lot of people were excited. But eventually we got there. It's still being investigated. He hasn't been convicted. That was what I was trying to say 10 minutes ago.
Right.
No, well, there's not
Nobody's
even
convicting.
an
We're just
indictment. There's not
discussing.
even an indictment yet. So,
Right.
but that's sort of that's was sort of why I brought it up. Like, the only reason we're talking about this is because Matt Gaetz opened his fucking mouth and said some shit. He should have just shut the fuck up, like, and nobody would even be talking about this. Like, why did he do that in the first place?
How could he be extorted by his own people?
Did he? If he didn't say anything, this wouldn't even be a conversation that's happening right now.
Yeah, moral of the story is shut your pie hole.
Shut the fuck up.
So
Get
what
an attorney.
Okay, so I only know a bit of this. What is the thing he should have shut his pie hole about?
Being extorted.
Well, you know,
I mean, specifically.
You know what?
Specifically.
That is.
Yeah.
You know what he was doing? He was throwing his own under the bus. That was a catch and kill.
Just wait. Can someone be specific and not talk in rhymes?
I can be specific. Basically, what happened is Matt Gaetz put out a tweet that said, or a press statement, that he's being extorted by an ex-DOJ official and somebody else they're trying to extort him for $25 million.
Okay.
And this is what he's saying. And so he said, "Oh, all this is just a hit on me because they're trying to extort me for $25 million."
Oh, so he cried extortion.
Exactly.
Which triggers, someone can file against him.
So they're looking under both things. They're looking under extortion, if that's true, and they're looking at him to see what the accusations against him, if that's true or not.
Yep.
I think they're both tied. I think that he's throwing people under the bus that were covering for him, probably a catch and kill.
What did you see? He went on Tucker Carlson and he's like, "Well, Tucker, like, you've done this too." He said something like that. and Tucker Carlson's like, "What are you fucking talking about? Do not fucking drag
That's
me
nasty,
into
by
this
the way.
shit."
Tucker brought him on to help him out.
Yeah,
he did him like that.
That
was nasty.
That is bad.
Nobody touched the guy.
To me, that just screams like somebody who's guilty, who's like, fucking,
come on, man, you've done this too.
Yeah. like obviously, it's like it's not gone to court, and we don't know everything.
Yeah. We got to give people.
Once you do something like that, it looks really bad.
That wasn't extortion. That was something being brought to his attention to take care of, and then he flipped it around and called it extortion. He was throwing his own under the bus, is what that was. That was a catch and kill. They came to him and said, "Hey, Matt, this was happening. Got to our attention. They got it. They brought it up to him, and what he did was he accused them of extorting him, and really, that was likely a catch and kill. Like, okay, this is what's going on behind the scenes of you being investigated, and we have to take care of it.
Yeah.
And it got too big.
Hold on,
and he probably.
Nivek, let Trav finish.
Yeah, I was following Nivek there. Yeah, it's if someone wants to say, like,
because those are his people.
If someone wants to say, like, I legitimately thought I was allowed to do this because, like, while they're in the through the process of court, if they actually legitimately thought that they were allowed to do something, and this happens in tax evasion stuff all the time, because they say, like, it was how I was taught to do my taxes, and I guess I didn't school myself enough in taxes and I made a mistake. There is room for people to make honest mistakes, but going on someone's TV program and like, when you're being investigated and saying, like, come on, man, you do this crime too, it's like, oh, dude, like, Jesus.
It's fucking, it's bad PR.
Yeah, remember that girl? Tucker's like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't know which girl. I don't know.
Is that what he said?
Nothing to do with that girl. Yeah, he's like, that girl.
Oh.
That girl. You see that girl you saw me with. We were with the girl together. Tucker's like, get away from me, man.
Basically, Matt Gates was like, "Hey, man, we had dinner and she was there with you." And Tucker's like, "I don't know what you're fucking talking about at all." Yeah.
Can I ask a question? He didn't deny that he knew she was 17.
Not once, ever.
And you know what's really interesting to me, that he can't claim that he's ignorant, because the TVAP laws went into effect in 2000. Trafficking laws have been in effect for over 20 years. So, a dude wanting to get his dick wet with a 17-year-old just doesn't cut it.
Up in Canada, I believe age of consent is 16.
Well, it's different in each state.
Right.
Well, some countries it's 13.
So I just looked it up in Florida. It's 18. So.
Right.
Yeah. And Alabama, I think it's I think it's like 15.
I think it's 14. It's 14 in Pennsylvania.
Jesus.
14 in Pennsylvania. I know, dude. How fucking
is that
wild
why
is
some of
that?
these fucked up cults moved to Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
But he's a congressman, though.
In some parts of Mexico, it's 12.
So Jesus Christ, can someone tell me, so Matt Gaetz was dating a 17-year-old? Or was he having sex with a 17-year-old?
Lord knows.
That's what nobody's saying.
It's being investigated.
Okay, so no one knows.
Well, I think he was dating her, because the only time he's come out and said anything is like, "I didn't pay for her to cross state lines," and that's basically been his argument. It's like, well, she did cross state lines, but you're just arguing that you didn't pay for it.
Well,
so
no, he could be saying that he didn't pay for that, like he bought her plane ticket, but he wasn't paying to get her over state lines. He was paying for her to travel or whatever.
Oh,
but
right.
wasn't for his buddy.
But
The
that's the
suspicion
thing.
wouldn't be there.
If he's paying for her to travel over state lines,
yeah, but guys, don't add something we don't know, right? So what we know right now is that
I just
he
think
may have paid for this person to travel, and if some of the prosecution is going to have to demonstrate that if even she claims that they did have sex, he might claim that they didn't.
So well, that's sort of the interesting point, because he's never denied that, and that's the point that's the point of interest for me.
It's the connection with the buddy that brought the suspicion.
Yeah,
Travis.
And he's never denied that he had sex with the 17-year-old. He's just saying, I didn't pay for her to cross state lines. That's basically his argument right now. It's like, Jesus Christ, dude. Talk to a lawyer before you go on fucking Tucker Carlson, please.
Yeah. Why would he go on Tucker
Tucker
Carlson?
bus chucked him back.
He goes on Tucker Carlson all the time.
But why would he go on? Yeah, but why would he go on that show and talk about that?
Nobody was touching him with a 10-foot pole. Tucker was giving him an opportunity.
It's the only thing in the news today.
Well,
Tucker was giving him a chance to explain his side of the story. Nobody was touching him with a 10-foot pole. Republicans didn't want nothing to do with him.
Dude, well, even McCarthy is like, I'm fucking washing my hands of that, guys. That.
Yeah, but why are they? Yeah, but he's not. Yeah, but hold on a sec. He's not guilty yet.
It's the narrative. He's a politician. He wants to change the narrative. Tucker is giving him an opportunity, but he bus chucked him.
Hang on, but don't start like this is the kind of cancel culture crap that we haven't.
Yeah.
This guy hasn't had the due diligence of going through the court system, and people are throwing him away. They don't want anything to do with him. Fuck those people.
Well,
those are his own people.
That's his own people who.
Yeah, so like, I'm saying, I know when
they haven't come out and denounced him yet. They just haven't said
right.
anything.
So, but this is the kind of crap that I hate. These people that want to partially convict him before there's been a trial. This is retarded. A retarded way to think.
When you say his own people, who's turning him in? Like.
Nobody's vouching for him.
When
his assistants, people close to him.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people like who
McCarthy.
are his friends and colleagues. If they're already throwing him, Nivik, wait. Yeah. If they're already throwing him out like he's a piece of trash before he's had why do we even have courts?
Exactly. I
but
I agree with you on that, Pangburn, because I think that from what I've witnessed here in Oregon, this is the kind of stuff that Antifa loves to do.
Yes, this is the exact same shit. And this is and people go around saying like, yeah, this guy, this guy's fucked. He's his career's over. Put yourself in his shoes for just a second. For just
this
one
guy,
Nivik,
this guy's like that
Nivik,
himself.
wait. Put yourself in his shoes for 1 second. Think of what that would be like. Nivik, now what do you think?
This guy's like that himself.
No. That's not what
these
I
are
asked
his.
you.
These are his standards.
Nope.
He's an insurrectionist. He's
Nivik.
a pro-insurrectionist guy.
Nivik, if you were in his shoes and people were just labeling you as guilty and not wanting anything to do with you, not touching you with a 10-foot pole, like you said, how would you feel about that? And let's say, and you knew you were innocent of what people thought you were guilty of.
Okay. How would I feel? Like if I was a jackass,
no,
I'd probably say, man, like I'm talking about how he is.
Nivik, I'm not talking. Nivik, you don't know who he is.
Pangburn.
You know the public persona of him. You don't know who he is. But anyways, Nivik, I'm talking if you, Nivik, were in that situation where people were and they were casting you away when you haven't even had your day in court yet, how would you feel about that?
This is the guy that talking about the election being stolen and he was for the insurrection.
Stop dodging.
Nivek, hold on,
Stop
man.
dodging and go with the course of conversation. That's another.
No, I'm saying if you act like the guy back to him the way he acts to you is what I'm saying.
What are you talking
it's
about?
Hard for me to get sympathy to
Nivik,
that guy.
Nivik, I'm not asking you to have sympathy for him.
That's a different question.
I'm trying to.
No, I'm asking you, how would you feel if you were in that situation where people were just labeling you as, somewhat guilty just because you've been accused of certain things, and you knew that you were not guilty of it?
That's wrong.
Yeah. So do you think maybe he could be feeling that way about how much people may be blowing this out of proportion? Maybe he has broken the law, but maybe he hasn't.
See, if somebody is a person that's like that and you are like that back, it's almost validated in a way. That's why I'm just not having sympathy for him.
So are you saying that
he's one of those Trump extremist nuts?
Are you saying that if someone's your political enemy, then it's okay to not give them due process?
Yeah, Doolittle nailed it on the head, Nivik. You sound like you're just a political radical in this conversation.
No, he is a Trump extremist.
I don't give a shit about that. Whenever I ask you to jump into the experience of the man, all you see is a Trump extremist. That makes you a fool.
Yeah, you're not.
I've asked you 3 times, Nivik.
I've gave a logical explanation. I'm saying if a person acts a nasty way and then those same standards are done back to him that same way. I mean,
dude, are you trolling?
That's not the question.
I asked you to put yourself in the experience of this guy and imagine if you actually weren't guilty of anything illegal, how would you feel?
Yeah, I feel bad.
that?
I feel bad about that.
Right, and do you think he's maybe feeling bad about that too?
Yeah.
Right. So this is why we need courts and to adhere to the court of law. And I hate this idea of like say Chick Vicious gets charged or there's some allegations that come out that she has committed sex crimes against children. It's not within my moral foundation to distance myself from her just because these allegations have been made. This is the morality of Sam Harris. This is the morality of all of these people who want to cancel other intellectuals when they hear of these things because they can't possibly appear with them in a conversation.
So here.
No. If it was a different Republican, I'd have sympathy. Not this guy or Marjorie Taylor or any of those type of folks.
Hold on. Here's an interesting question to that, Travis. So you're running a company and you think somebody is doing something that's negatively impacting your company. They haven't gone to a trial. Nothing's been proved in a court of law. how do you feel about that? Would you, if you felt that they were doing something that was negatively impacting your company, would you want to get rid of them, or would you say, okay, this needs to be proved within a court of law before you
So
got rid of
whatever your contract says about termination, that will outline what you can do, or else you can be sued. So if the termination agreement says you can be sued if you sneeze the wrong way, or you don't wear the right sexy clothes to work, then you're fired. Your
skirt is way too long.
Yeah, you've agreed to that when you signed up. But if it's just someone, and this is where discrimination comes in the workforce all the time, because people will be like, oh, we really fired this guy because he was really lagging behind on box stacking. And then they go to check the tapes and they look at the evidence and they realize, wow, this guy was actually moving faster than the other guys, is what the evidence shows. So they're going to file a lawsuit and say, can we get those tapes? We have other people saying, and then they in the end discover that they just didn't want the guy with the turban working in the back, something like that. So you just the termination agreement will take care of that in that case.
I'm just pointing out the reality of people not running to his aid. It factors in with him being a douche. It just does.
Yeah, so it's one thing if they don't want to be associated with someone because they're a douche, but say your best friend Nivik gets let's say there's some white collar or no, let's say a violent crime. He's being charged with assaulting somebody, or let's not say your best friend. Let's say a friend that you see maybe once a month.
A guy that likes to trip old women.
So no. A friend,
kills him.
Nivik, a friend you meet up with like once a month. Who's you call a friend. And he's being charged. There are allegations laid against him that he has been sexually inappropriate with an ex-girlfriend. What does that mean for your friendship?
Yeah, I think that he's a bad guy and wouldn't want nothing to do with him.
Because allegations were made against him?
Oh, allegations.
Yeah, dude. Try to stay with me, brother.
Sorry.
Jesus.
Sorry about that. Well, yeah, no. I would
I just want to know.
I wouldn't be against them.
Nivik, I'm not asking you questions because I want to see you fail or anything. I'm genuinely interested in your responses. So please, if you can pay attention when you're in these rooms, I would love it. So would you I want to know, would you still be able to support that friend, or would you feel like until this is all sorted out in court, I won't be able to really hang out with you, man?
Yeah, until it's sorted out.
So that would be your position. You wouldn't hang out with him until it's all sorted out. What if he needed you? What if he needed your support? And what if he told you that this was all bullshit?
Well, okay. I guess it would be there'd be support, but not 100% kind of thing. Because I wouldn't really know, and you'd have to talk to the person and see if I guess of course they'll say it's not true.
Same question for you, Chick. What if you had let's say a girlfriend that was going through the same scenario?
I think even a year ago, I would have said, I would have gone more with the group think. I would have taken in, the opinion of those around. I'm taking on much more of a. This is just me personally, but I'm starting to understand now how complicated everything is. That people are as complicated as I am myself. So I think I would try to keep an open mind in these cases. And I think that's probably what you're getting at, Travis, is things are complicated and we don't see the whole picture.
Yeah, a friend who would abandon you in a moment where you need support. It's one thing. Maybe your friend will say, you know what, I know the instant she's talking about, she might say it was wrong. I might say it was right. At this point, I think it's important that we sort this out in court. But I don't think I did anything. Let's say they say that bad. I'll throw the same question to you, Scott. You still there, buddy? Can you guys still hear me?
I hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to Zombie, and then we'll try Scott again after.
Well, I probably wouldn't be able to associate with them, frankly, because of work.
Right. So put your work out of it. Just let's talk about your morality.
I mean, I'm kind of more inquisitive. I would want to see some facts. I would listen to his story, but I would also want to see, if there's any other, like, what's the other side of the story? If I hang out with him, I probably hang out with his ex too, or I did at one point.
Well, let's just say you're just friends with the one party. Like if you're unable to see facts because those are being held until there's a trial or an opportunity to sit in mediation, how do you treat that friend if you don't get access to the facts and all you have left to be is a friend to them?
Well, I would probably treat him probably the same way I treated him previously, and kind of see how the cards fall.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Didn't have any work rules that prohibited me from chatting with him, but I really think that my relationships are based one-on-one. I could give a two flying fucks about what anybody else thinks about that person, so I'm gonna be treating him how he treats me. And
actually, let's. Oh, Nivik, you got to mute, brother.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Now, what if Zombie? It was like a situation of now. Here's the place where I think this starts getting interesting. I'll pass that question around to everyone else, so it would be sweet if you guys could have an answer, because this is where philosophy gets difficult, and applying your morality and seeing where there are holes in your moral structure potentially. Because someone might sit there and say, oh, like me, my moral foundation is to maximize well-being for myself and those around me, unless this situation happens. If there are these unless this, unless that, I don't think you have a very strong moral foundation. So I think there's another part of this that I love talking about, and it's when someone gets, let's say you have 3 kids, and your brother gets accused by a mother and her little girl of sexually abusing her. Now, think of that relationship. If it's your sibling and you're really close with them, and they're used to coming around your kids, and your kids have never said anything weird, and you've never witnessed anything weird, but there's this outstanding allegation. How does that affect your relationship?
That's kind of my situation. I do have a brother, but so. Right. I would definitely, stick with him, other than as he's going through the process. I'd tell him, dude, if you did something bad, I'll be here, but you're going to suffer some consequences. Right. And I'll still be here. I'd write letters and him and put some money on his books, I guess. But, that would be really hard for a family to deal with, but they have to suffer consequences if it was legitimate.
Okay, and I think we missed just the really hard part of that. So before he has trial or he has to go to jail or anything, and say you're having Thanksgiving coming up, is he allowed to be around your kids during Thanksgiving with the outstanding allegation? Sorry?
Yeah.
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 Unless there was some condition of a pretrial release that said that he couldn't, I'm not going to break the law for him. But yeah, totally. But I mean, I think as a parent, I would definitely, make sure that they're not in a room alone together. Of course, mine are all older now, so it doesn't really matter. But I would take precautions.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, what do the rest of you guys think about that scenario? I think maybe we should go to Mace next. Mace, how would you handle that? Say I don't know if you have a brother, but say your brother was, someone had made an allegation and there's a charge out for him, committing a sexual act against a child. Would your siblings still be able to come over and enjoy Thanksgiving with your kids while the allegation still stood? Or anyone who wants to answer? Anyone got it?
I'd say no.
What's that, Nivik?
No, until things are figured out.
Okay, so you would say, I know we had planned to have you over for Thanksgiving, but I can't have you over now, brother, because of the allegation that's been made. And then your brother says back to you, Nivik, this is all bullshit. Nothing happened. I'm innocent. I don't know why this is happening to me. And then what do you say?
Oh man, you're making this difficult, man.
Well, yeah, morality is not a walk in the park. So what do you say back to your brother, Nivik? He just wanted to come over and enjoy Thanksgiving with you guys. And he's telling you that I did not do a damn thing.
Well, I mean, it just have to be investigated, and that's that, right? And
right. So the
out.
investigation still has to play out, but the allegation's been made, and you are denying him coming to Thanksgiving. But he pleads with you, saying, what can I do to come to Thanksgiving? Like, do you need to lock the kids away from me? Do you really think I'm a monster all of a sudden?
Yeah, but you're putting the kids in jeopardy, though.
Are you?
Potentially. Is it worth it? No.
Yeah, but Nivik, try to think skeptically. Try to think skeptically about that for a sec. The allegation could be just bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? And even if it was true, do you think that having your brother come over for Thanksgiving is of any significant risk?
Well, you know what, man? You gotta, based on the things you know about him, family, and how things are, and what you're hearing, I guess you just have to come to a logical conclusion on if you should or if you shouldn't, because you know him, and you're hearing things that are different, and you just have to process all that information together to come to the best logical conclusion that you can.
Yeah,
it's not really hearsay on one part, or
I think it's a moral conclusion.
Yeah, because there might be factors that might connect with you in what's being accused.
Sure, yeah. Then you would have some
that makes you think, okay,
right?
I kind of had a suspicion about this and that.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the things that they're saying, that those suspicions that I had, I saw that it led to him doing this and doing that.
Yeah,
he did those same things that I kind of thought was funny when he was with my daughter or my, the cousin or whatever.
Yeah,
they're saying what happened here.
Yeah,
so you have to factor all sides of information to your best conclusion to figure out
Right. So
because you can't just think emotionally.
There's an interesting dilemma there, right? Because things that seemed so innocent and loving now, because of this allegation, which might be horseshit, right? You start thinking along the lines of, oh, I wonder if that meant this and this meant that. That's why this dilemma is a difficult one.
And with Gates, I'm just processing information. I'm not concluding that he's guilty. It just doesn't look good for him is all. It's simply there's not a lot of positivities there. Oh, your buddy's like a sex trafficker and he's charged with all types of
Right.
charges, and
Mm-hmm.
so when you talk about it politically, even if there's nothing there, just politically, and that's kind of like what it is. And yeah, of course they're going to attack him for that.
What do you think of all this, Doolittle?
About all of it, I think I think that you don't need proof in a court of law that someone's guilty or not guilty to come to your own conclusions.
Right.
About your own friends and how you want to treat them as friends in your own life or your own family. But I think that the Thanksgiving thing. If you do have doubts about whether your own brother's a pedophile, if he's over at Thanksgiving, don't leave him alone in the room with your
right. So that's
with your 12-year-olds.
Right. So that's not the difficult part. The difficult part is whether the allegation itself can plant doubt in you.
Yeah, allegations definitely plant doubt. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They can plant that. An allegation can plant doubt. I think it's incumbent on all of us to investigate the credibility of the allegations before we allow them to grow on us.
And then,
what do you think about my comment when I said that it's what do you call it, a catch and kill, and it wasn't really a setup about.
I don't know what that means.
That's when something is bad happening and people who you're associated with give you heads up about it and taking care of it. Kind of like if a bad thing's going to come out, like a story, for example, and it's like, what, we found this out and we're not going to publish it. And we can sweep it under the rug. That's a catch and kill. And I guess you'd be like, it'll be a you scratch my back and I scratch yours kind of thing.
That's obviously not the situation with Matt Gaetz, because nothing's getting swept under the rug.
No, I'm saying that potentially what it could have been when he was saying that he's charged with extortion. That because the people who he's accusing was under the Trump administration. So and so it looks like it was a heads up. It wasn't really an extortion. I'm potentially saying it looks like it possibly was.
I don't assign any credibility to the allegations against Matt Gaetz.
So okay,
I think that the number one thing where I think you can filter out allegations is if they're made by your political opponent.
Okay. Well, that doesn't mean necessarily that they should be thrown away, right, Doolittle?
Right. No. Right. But I'm saying I'm a member of the public that doesn't know the situation. I'm not there. I'm not a victim. I'm not a perpetrator. Right. High profile political person gets accused by a political opponent of something that, at least for the first couple days, he doesn't even know what they're talking about. You don't hear his political friends coming out and saying we condemn this behavior, right?
Right, but that's not a way to get to causation, right?
You don't know. Well, you don't know what the truth is, but the lowest credibility evidence is an allegation from a political opponent. So if the allegation came from a victim,
It's not from an opponent.
Well,
Then that's a different story.
It was it was Trump's DOJ charging him.
You say Trump's DOJ. When did the DOJ ever do anything that Trump wanted?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't point. You
but,
can't point
but
to
claims. But like if
you're saying that it's the left, it's not the left.
I'm not. I didn't say anything that's left or right or anything. I'm just saying that okay. Who made the allegations?
Oh, you guys are talking about this thing again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm
just saying. If you have allegations out there, you have to. It's incumbent on all of us before we form an opinion to decide how credible each of the pieces of evidence is. Just in general. I mean, it's got nothing to do with this one particular charge. I mean, it's relevant because there's a lot of allegations that are not credible that get floated, and especially when you start talking about politics.
Well, I would say
that's what the game is.
Right, but it just be that's not when I think about what you're saying from a skeptic's perspective, and I think, okay, if I'm wanting to separate bullshit from reality to determine whether these claims are bullshit or not, so the correlation of these two people being political, enemies does not add to the causation of whatever the claim is necessarily. Right. So I have a problem looking at things through that lens.
I wanted to make a quick comment to Nivik. I think when he made the statement, it was Trump's DOJ, that kind of illustrates that you may have been a little biased in what your thought process is here.
Oh, if I'm not a fan of Gates, no, but I can still think rational. Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just rationalizing.
The issue is the DOJ is not someone's DOJ. They may appoint someone at the very top, but you have thousands and thousands of people, and then state-run DOJs in each state that have hundreds or thousands of people that. You're just, it kind of sounded like you're assuming that everyone that worked for DOJ is.
I believe that extortion claim is a heads up. It's not really an extortion.
It might,
I think it was a heads up of corruption. And it was getting out too much. So he just accused, he made a false accusation. Oh, they're trying to extort me. So it's kind of like, I'm going to turn on you.
So back on the situation of my brother coming to the Thanksgiving dinner, and maybe he was accused of pedophilia. I have a whole body of evidence from my entire life about what the character is of that person.
Right,
which that can inform your decision to a large extent.
But again, Doolittle, it's you have to understand that keeping these things from you, let's say it's your brother, like his sexual proclivities, he may have been successful at that, and this pedophilia thing may have only come to fruition, or he had acted on it this one time.
Okay, but I mean that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to exclude the person from the family.
Right. And this is exactly my point, is that I think if someone is going to exclude someone from the Thanksgiving in this scenario, you have to have reasonable justification to do so.
Yeah, exactly.
And it
has to be credible too, right?
Well, that would fall under the umbrella of reasonable justification.
Okay.
So the justification part of the knowledge triangle. So, you'd have to have justification to take this action, or I could see why this family member that's saying, I didn't do anything, this is all a sham. I can see why they may, look on you with disdain in the future for not, supporting them when they truly needed it most, when someone was making, potentially a false allegation about them.
Oh, by the way, speaking of bias, where are all the QAnon nuts coming after Gates? With all the pedophilia conspiracies.
fuck
Shouldn't
those
they be
people.
Shouldn't they be all over him? Shouldn't Marjorie Green
They
be all over
are.
him?
They are all over him, but
She
there's
didn't say a thing
absolutely
about
no
him
proof
against
or
him.
evidence, nothing.
But I'm just saying, on nothing they jump on things, or they just out of thin air they just make up anything.
They went
and
after.
You think that they jump on this guy?
Well, they went after Tom Hanks. Well, they probably are, but they went after Tom Hanks, and they're like, "Oh, is it just like a conspiracy theorist does? Isn't it interesting that Tom Hanks went to Greece right when he was, about when these allegations came out?" It's like they didn't care to look at that they had these trips planned forever, and they were being honored by the country for their giving and all the good that they've done for the country because his wife is Greek. Like these QAnon people they're just trying to prove a narrative correct, which is cynicism.
By the way, Travis, you think there could be a potential sex trafficking ring in connection with the guy that got busted that's Gates' friend, that can lead to Gates and that can lead to other people?
Is it possible? Is that your question?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's possible that many things are possible, man. It's
they're going to plead bargain. They're going to plead deal that guy.
Unless I'm writing music, I don't spend much time thinking in the realm of possibility.
I guarantee you they're going to plead bargain that guy. They're going to give him a plea deal.
Maybe.
Oath.
Yeah, maybe. Depends what the it depends what the
they're investigating child trafficking.
It depends
trafficking.
It depends what the claimant wants out of this. A lot of the time you'll find settlements because they want remuneration.
But they're investigating child trafficking, child sex trafficking. They're not just going to bust them and say, "Have a nice day." They're going to do that.
Well,
they're going to say, "What you got?"
It depends what they have for,
what he has,
evidence and proofs, or whoever's the claimant.
If they don't have a victim, then they don't have a case.
Right. Like someone's got to, there has to be someone making a claim of criminal acts.
For that?
It doesn't matter. Like in law, it's like, has someone broken the law? Yes, this person is claiming that person has. Then it's that claimant versus the defendant.
Some instances it wouldn't matter, depending, right?
What do you
on
mean?
The state, right?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, like in some laws you break and the person don't want to press charges, it wouldn't matter.
No, yeah, it's the people. The people are being represented. The people are the claimants.
I was watching this thing on.
Wait, Nivik, 2 seconds. I just want to make sure you understand that. The people, like we hire police officers to uphold the law, and our attorneys, or your district attorney, all of that stuff. Like they're the ones acting on behalf of the people.
Yeah.
What up, Scooper?
What's up, man? It's been a minute.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
The question for today is, does intent matter? But we're kind of getting into more, should intent matter?
Oh, okay. Cool.
Nivik, you were going to say something. You were taking that somewhere?
What was I saying again? Yeah, I was talking about it leading into potentially other things, but I guess you said you don't know where that might lead.
Well, yeah, I think that the point Zombie was making is just that like there has to be a claimant.
Okay.
Like
and like I was saying, if there's an allegation of a crime, an allegation made by a victim is way stronger than an allegation made by a political opponent.
But the political opponent might be a victim.
Could be, yeah. I'm not.
So
I'm talking about like if there's a political, someone that Matt Gaetz has been campaigning against, makes an allegation that he committed a crime against a third party that's not related to.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. This is
those two political rivals.
The state, or sometimes the state can charge you.
This is the kind of thinking I think people waste too much time on, like trying to determine the weight or the validity of claims based on like terrible amounts of fringe evidence that you happen to see publicly. It's like you don't know a damn thing about and this is just a general statement to people who are just taking things in through Twitter. It's like you don't know a damn thing about where legal proceedings are at necessarily. You might get given a bit of information, but you don't know exactly what's being discussed and exactly what proofs are available and are being exercised. So
it's not necessarily about convicting Gaetz. It's political. They just he's going to be savaged.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm saying it's not necessarily about convicting Gaetz. It's also political of just tearing him apart.
Oh, you mean like the QAnon people that think he's evil?
No, I'm just saying like associating him with negative people. It's just not in attacking him and attacking his character, attacking his judgment. Just he's just going to be. That's just natural. That's the arena. Yeah. I'm just saying.
I think it's more productive to waste our thoughts on, maybe not waste our thoughts. It's more productive to spend our thoughts on questioning of issues of intention where there's other ones in the news today that are really there really are people that died,
right, and
huge ramifications for for example this trial that's going on with
Chauvin
and the guy that was also apparently he was also on fentanyl at the same time, and was he intending to rob the store when he passed off a fake bill, and then was the officer intending to kill him, or was the officer trying to save his life?
Well,
dying, and then I think that's a lot more important to ruminate over than whether Matt Gaetz is a.
I just find it ironic people talk about QAnon, child sex trafficking conspiracies, and them potentially being part of that. That's.
Oh, you're wondering. Oh, okay.
That just grabs
You're
me.
wondering if there's any validity to these conspiracy theories. Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm saying it's kind of ironic that those who are on the right, that are pro QAnon and child trafficking, sex trafficking conspiracies are being looked into.
Yeah, Nivik, it's not only right wingers in that QAnon nonsense. It's riddled with it pulls at anti-vaxxers, and anti-vaxxers come from both spectrums of these political labels.
I'm just kind of wondering if that potentially is there. Anyways, that's going to be investigated, and they're gonna sure. Make the guy sing that they caught.
One thing I was going to say that I really wanted to say, this is why I always tell people, if there is an allegation charged against them that they say is completely false and wrong, you must go in and file a countersuit. You must. It's in your best interest. Lawyers are going to tell you this. If a lawyer doesn't tell you this, I don't like. As far as I'm concerned, what I would do, go find a new fucking lawyer if you're actually innocent. If you're actually innocent, countersue. We have to, human beings have to start doing this against false allegations and allegations that are, they start off with a little bit of truth, say something like, oh, okay, our relationship was getting abusive. And then the false allegation was he raped me. So in that stretch, if the claim is actually rape, countersue if you are innocent. Always.
What if I'm guilty? Should I still countersue?
Probably not. You should probably just sit there and take your punishment. If you're guilty of rape, go and do your time for rape. You've done rape. Go sit in jail for rape.
That would definitely be the moral thing to.
Sure. But I'm a huge fan of, if someone is trying to harm you by legal action or calling you a fraud or something like this, countersue. The system is there to work for people who are being victimized by allegations as well. And it works if you use it. False allegations are crimes as well, and for good reason. So if you find yourself being victimized in that way, or in any other way, have the perpetrator charged.
I agree with this 100%. I think our legal system needs to take this into account. And if people are found to make false accusations in court and legal proceedings, they should have criminal charges against them. If at the very least, pay the legal costs of the defendant.
See, and I don't think that's enough. Because I would like to see, like you say, there's some of these cases where these people get it done with in court, and then they have an opportunity to then sue them for defamation of character or, wrongful accusations, whatever. And they'll give them the option. Sometimes people just say, you know what, fuck it, this is over now. Please. We need people to be held accountable for their crimes. It doesn't matter if it's a white collar crime, a guy punching out an old woman on the street, or making a false allegation of rape that can cause an incredible amount of psychological harm to the person who gets labeled this way. And as we just went through this experience, just in this room alone, how people are going to react and treat you differently potentially because of a false allegation. These situations are terrible, and I hate seeing, people get allegations thrown at them, and then all of a sudden no one will work with them anymore. I've seen this happen with intellectuals, and it's a fucking sad thing.
Yeah, fill me in on the details if I'm wrong. I think it was a lacrosse team, it was a college team, and like the mattress girl. I think this was all the same story. Forgive me if I'm amalgamating different stories, but this whole lacrosse team got reamed on this false allegation. And I'm pretty sure one guy spent some time in prison. I feel like I'm amalgamating stories.
It was the Duke lacrosse team.
Yes, and one of the guys spent some time in prison, a couple of years, if I remember right.
Oh yeah.
And then she got found out to be a liar because she was talking about it on social media, and then he got released. I think in situations like that, the person that made the false allegation should be sentenced with the maximum sentence of the if the criminal actually did the situation and they got their worst sentence, the person that provides the false allegation should be sentenced with that maximum penalty. So if they make a lie up and some guy's going to go to 25 years in jail, she needs to go to 25 years in jail.
The thing I worry about with that villain is, and maybe this could be avoided. What I'm about to say, like once the court allows you to refine your claim as the claimant, like if this person has an opportunity before court to work with their lawyers to refine the claim, and there's a tough thing here, villain, in that a lawyer might be able to convince a claimant that something was rape based on their opinion, and the claimant might not have thought it was rape, but they were calling it harassment up until that point. So then the lawyer has influenced this person to think that, that this was worse than it actually could be demonstrated to be. And then, in that situation, you could claim that the lawyer had a hand in putting her in prison for a longer period of time.
I think that's an anecdote and like an outlier. I think this issue deals with the girls screaming rape, like the boy who cried wolf. Like, yeah, there's going to be those outliers. And I'm thinking of, this goes really deep.
Maybe the people need to take the responsibility. That is the district attorney or the whoever's representing the people, after the case against claimant and defendant is over and they have found the allegations to be plainly false, in that it wasn't a misinterpreted actual thing that occurred that didn't happen to be rape, let's say, based on judgment. But if it was just flatly, if they find out that the claimant, that the woman made this claim because she was pissed off at him for leaving her. Now, if that is demonstrated in court, perhaps, and if the defendant doesn't want to countersue or press charges for false allegations, perhaps the people need to step in and charge her with obstructing the law. Or for actually breaking the law, and it gets charged from a people perspective at that point.
I think this goes really, really deep into a lot of different intellectual ideas, but also ideological differences between you and I.
Well, I don't think we're very far off with
it's
what
easy.
we're saying.
I think it's easy for people to know the situation. You don't have to prove the situation with a scientific paper or a study. You can know, like, the society and the community can know, like, somebody's full of shit. And sometimes it's really hard to prove that scientifically or without a doubt. But the consensus of the community can say, like, hey, this is nonsense.
You mean like O.J. Simpson?
Yeah, O.J. Simpson got off, and almost the whole of our country thinks that, like, the dude's guilty, and he got sued in civil suit later. And, like, that's the duality of our messed up legal system, to where, like, oh, you can be found, like, criminally innocent, but then you can be found civilly guilty, and, like, there's this like disassociation that's just ridiculous.
I get what you're saying, villain.
Well, a lot of that is like a burden of proof issues, So
I was also going to add too, Scott, that when you get to the end of the court hearing, ultimately people are using their best judgment to decide whether there is reasonable doubt here. And also,
I don't know if that's true.
Well, that's the process, though.
That's
They're
the-
either
yeah,
they're either
that's-
voting, guilty or not guilty. They're not voting innocent.
Yeah.
They're voting
So
guilty.
so I don't agree with the leftist postmodernism situation where everybody's trying to just do power, but I do agree with they've got something true there, and everybody's like trying to like buoy up their worldview. And so when we get a jury situation that's so separated from like small communities, like it gives people the potential of this like psychological ambiguity or abstract psychological realm to where they can like be muddy in their mind and like
well, I think members
push for these things that aren't true, but that represent. We can build a jury of differing people that are going to each try to like paint reality in their own best benefit, not necessarily towards a universal truth.
Well, here's Villain. Do you think Hillary Clinton is guilty of anything?
Oh yes.
Why? Has she been to court? Has she ever gone to court and been proven guilty of anything?
So that's where I would come in, and I know this word is hated in this community, but that's where I would come in with I don't agree with scientism. I don't need a study to be done or
You don't need evidence. It's all about feelings.
No, there is evidence there, but I don't need somebody else to tell me the boundaries and the ranges of evidence that I can declare to myself as valid. And I've seen enough of her and her actions and her surroundings that I say like she's done crimes. That doesn't mean I'm authorized in the courts of this country to declare her evil or declare her guilty.
Yeah.
But
God,
I think that
have you ever talked to her and had like an individual like experience with her?
So you're doing the I can only know things. No. I'm going to answer your question. You asked me a question, I get an answer. You answered it. No, you answered it. You asked the question, I get the answer.
Okay, Villain, and then Scott. We'll go back and forth. No one interrupt. Let's Villain and Scott go back and forth.
You asked me if I've ever talked to her. So you're questioning my right to have an opinion on her.
This is Hillary Clinton.
This is kind of intersectionality. You're kind of touching on it.
Can I'll be the referee. I just want to. Can I clarify one thing?
You're drawing into question my point of view because I've never talked to her. But I reject your
I don't think that's what,
because there are many variables, and I have experienced her actions, and I can draw a conclusion.
Can I add one thing? I just want to say. Okay. I just want to say. Oh fuck!
I can't take you serious with those Harry Potter glasses.
I'm that kid in the classroom right now that has their hand up for 10 minutes, and then the teacher finally calls on them, and I'm like, I forgot. No, it was something. It was something about. But if you're going to make a positive claim that someone has done a crime, Villain, how do we go about determining whether they did or did not do that crime?
It's got to be more than just, hey, I feel this way because I've seen this person do this thing.
No, that's
I've
not
seen
true
this person on news channels over and over and over again.
No,
when
we get to evolutionary psychology, we say that it's actually safer and more productive for a person to attribute agency to a situation when they might be wrong, and when they might attribute agency falsely, nothing will happen. But when they attribute agency to a situation and it is there, then they've benefited from it. So when there's enough information and enough patterns of stories, and she's made herself a public figure, she's chosen to do that. So she's opened herself to the realm of public question. I've seen a pattern of the things reported to her, and this gets down to like Kant level. Like, how do we know what we know? Like, do we really know? Like all this information. Like, who do?
So it's not.
How do I know? What's going on?
Go ahead, Scott.
I've never been there. I don't know anybody that's been there.
Villain, we got your point. So do you think Donald Trump is a criminal?